Chapter 629. Lu Zhu felt herself swallowing a mouthful of saliva. It shouldn't be like this is too evil. Lu Zhu, you have to calm down. As Lu Zhu watched Li Fan walk over, she felt her heartbeat slowly increase from a sudden stop. What are you looking at? Li Fan saw Lu Zhu's eyes were slightly dull and could not help but ask. No, nothing. Lu Zhu averted her gaze and touched her slightly burning cheeks. Fuck, you're not gay, right? Li Fan suddenly thought of Yan Kai, that pervert. He could not help but shudder. What are you thinking about? Lu Zhu immediately understood Li Fan's meaning. She quickly jumped up and exclaimed, don't think nonsense. I don't have that kind of thought. I just envy your good figure. Ha! Of course your figure is good when you practice martial arts. Don't tell me your figure is bad. Humph, don't worry about it. Lu Zhu angrily said and rushed into the bathroom. This guy. He can't be gay, right? Li Fan lied on the bed and could not help but mutter. But now was not the time to think about this. Li Fan was really a little sleepy. Lying on the bed, he was drowsy and fell asleep after a while. When Lu Zhu came out of the bathroom, she was dressed neatly and saw Li Fan was already asleep on the bed. Fuck, you're sleeping so soundly, aren't you afraid I'll kill you? Lu Zhu took out her black jade fan and pointed at Li Fan on the bed. Humph. He suddenly coldly snorted, you this guy. Even if you're asleep, I'm afraid you're still 120% vigilant, I won't fall for your trick. Lu Zhu put down her fan and seemed to be ready to sleep. But she looked left and right, as if she didn't know where to lie. Bastard! Don't you know to leave a place for me? Lu Zhu was half dead from anger. This annoying Li Fan, he is simply too annoying. But now is not the time to kill him. Humph, I won't let you die so easily. I'll keep you alive to torture you. Lu Zhu gnashed her teeth as she stared at the sleeping Li Fan, her teeth itching with hatred. It could be said that anger rose from the heart, and evil grew from the side of the courage. Lu Zhu forcibly suppressed her anger. Now was not the time to turn hostile. Endure, you must endure. Even if he couldn't bear it anymore, he still had to bear it. Lu Zhu wrapped herself up even more tightly, and then carefully lay down on the bed. However, Li Fan had shamelessly placed a big character on the bed, which made Lu Zhu extremely upset. How could she sleep like this? Wasn't this making things difficult for him? Li Fan, aren't you being too selfish? Lu Zhu had no choice but to curl up into a ball and lie on the edge of the bed, trying his best to keep his distance from Li Fan. However, the bed was too small. Even if he wanted to hide, there was no other place to hide. Lu Zhu could only sigh and try to keep herself still, obediently leaning there. Really, why didn't everything go according to plan? Lu Zhu thought in her heart. Everything that she had planned was ruined. She had been on the road for a few days and was a little tired. Her mind was groggy and she felt a strong sleepiness like a wild beast that had been released from its cage, crazily pouncing on her. Lu Zhu's eyelids became heavier and heavier. Soon, she closed them and slowly fell asleep. It was late in the night, the moon was hanging high above the willow tree. Li Fan and Lu Zhu suddenly opened their eyes at the same time and looked at the ceiling. Li Fan was still fine, but Lu Zhu suddenly found himself like a kitten, leaning on Li Fan's arms, sleeping soundly. Lu Zhu's face turned red. He was too shameless. He hurriedly sat up and gently patted his face. Li Fan covered Lu Zhu's mouth, motioning him not to make a sound. Lu Zhu also knew what the situation was, but with Li Fan's hand covering his mouth, it was a little uncomfortable. Lu Zhu suddenly had a feeling that he really wanted to bite Li Fan's hand. But wouldn't that make him a puppy? Lu Zhu painstakingly endured it in the end. It was better not to lower himself to this guy's level. Damn it! Lu Zhu was gnashing his teeth, as if he wanted to eat Li Fan's flesh and drink Li Fan's blood. Li Fan didn't know what Lu Zhu was thinking. He was now concentrating on listening to the movements outside. Just when Lu Zhu felt a little suffocated and was about to bite Li Fan suddenly pressed Lu Zhu's head down on his crotch. Lu Zhu was shocked, then ashamed and resentful. He wanted to fight Li Fan to the death. But Li Fan also lowered his head and lay on Lu Zhu's body. A saber light flashed, leaving a deep saber mark on the wall beside them. Lu Zhu was shocked. Who could this saber energy be? But Li Fan had already guessed this person's identity. He sneered, "Fort Lord Yin, since you are here, why not show yourself? Hee, you are indeed a young hero. I didn't expect you to see through this old man's identity." The window was broken, and a figure jumped in from the outside and landed in front of them. This person was wearing a golden robe with a saber hanging on his waist. Although he was over 50 years old, he was still in high spirits as if he was in his early 30s. He was the Fort Lord of Golden Eagle Fort, Yin Wuchao. "Lu Zhu, this old man chased after you for thousands of miles. I didn't expect to have an unexpected harvest. The two of you, don't even think about leaving today." Yin Wuchao took out his saber and slashed at Li Fan's head. "Humph." Li Fan snorted coldly. Who was he? How could he be defeated by Yin Wuchao in a single move? Li Fan stretched out 2 fingers and flicked Yin Wuchao's saber. Dang! Yin Wuchao's saber was deflected to the side. He was shocked. "I haven't seen you for a few days and your internal energy has improved so much." Yin Wuchao looked at Li Fan and was shocked. In just a few days, although his internal energy did not increase, it became thicker and more condensed. He was becoming more and more like a true martial arts master. Yin Wuchao was even more shocked that he did not improve as fast as Lin Fan after practicing martial arts for so many years. This old man knows. Before Li Fan could speak, Yin Wuchao shouted, scaring Li Fan. "You must have practiced the 9 Buddha Sutra. Only then can your martial arts improve so much. Presumably, your so-called 7 hero fists is also an evolution of the 9 Buddha Sutra. Brat, hand over my 9 Buddha Sutra. Otherwise, you will die without a complete corpse today." As he spoke, Yin Wuchao raised his saber and slashed down at Li Fan. Li Fan carried Lu Zhu and jumped to the side. The saber slashed the wall of the inn in half while Li Fan and Lu Zhu jumped to the roof above. The 2 swords were sucked up by Li Fan using the dragon toad's absorption of water. He seemed to be worried about Lu Zhu and hung the 2 swords on his waist. Chapter 630. Die. Yin Wuchao did not waste any time. He raised his saber and slashed at Li Fan. Yin Wuchao took a step forward and took a bow stance. At the same time, the long saber in his hand drew an arc. In an instant, a crescent moon appeared in front of Li Fan and spread out in a fan shape. Li Fan pressed down on Lu Zhu's head. The 2 of them lowered their heads at the same time. The saber grazed past their scalps and cut down a row of small trees on the ancient path behind them. Following that, the saber slashed down on the ground, leaving a long ravine. The bluestone ground could not withstand Yin Wuchao's saber at all. The moonlight was beautiful, but it was filled with killing intent. Yin Wuchao stood in the middle of the ancient town with a saber in his hand, looking like a god of evil. "Hey, give me a sword. I'll help you deal with him." Lu Zhu was thrown to the side by Li Fan. When he saw that Yin Wuchao was charging at him aggressively, he couldn't help but shout at Li Fan, as if he wanted to help. But Li Fan didn't even turn his head and just scolded him. "Stand at the back." Lu Zhu stomped his feet in anger. However, when he saw Li Fan's back, he could only obediently hide at the back. "Hey! If you really can't do it, I can help you." Lu Zhu took out his black jade fan and gave it a few pats. However, Li Fan did not pay attention to him at all. Instead, he pulled out 2 swords, held them in his hands, and drew 2 beautiful sword flowers in his hands. "Ha, Li Fan, do you think that with 2 swords, you can block this old man's treasured saber that kills?" Yin Wuchao laughed. 1 4 symbols and 1 hero. You'll have to leave them for me today. What a waste in the hands of a brat like you. Come and take them if you can. Li Fan held the two swords and infused his primordial qi into them. The two swords glowed faintly as if they had been awakened. The two swords were like two dragons waiting to be awakened. They could soar into the sky at any moment and roam the world, looking down on all heroes. In this ancient town, one could even faintly hear the roar of a dragon. Brat, don't think that you're invincible just because you have two swords. Yin Wuchao sneered as he looked at Li Fan with disdain. Today, not even the magic treasure of a golden deity of the great all-embracing heaven can save you. Die. Yin Wuchao took another step forward. At the same time, the saber in his hand slashed out in a crescent. An ear-piercing sound of friction rang in his ears. It was as if the crescent moon was about to tear the night sky into two. Even Lu Zhu couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart when she saw the saber aura that could tear through anything. This Yin Wuchao was indeed a famous senior in the pugilistic world. He was the one who took down Golden Eagle Castle Lord Yin. He was too powerful and domineering. Could Li Fan really resist Yin Wuchao's all-out attack? Last time, at the bottom of the well on Mount Hua, the two of them also relied on the indestructible corpse stitching technique to defeat Yin Wuchao. Previously, Li Fan had only won a few moves against Yin Wuchao by himself, but that was only due to luck. If Yin Wuchao used his full strength, it would be too terrifying. The crescent moon quickly arrived in front of Li Fan. It was as if the wind was howling in his ears. It was extremely terrifying. However, there was no fear on Li Fan's face. Instead, he was very calm. He held two swords in a reverse grip and used them to block in front of him, forcefully blocking the crescent moon. Clang! The two swords let out a violent collision sound, followed by a deafening dragon roar. The crescent moon seemed to have encountered an invisible wall and suddenly stopped for 2 seconds. Then, it shattered into several air waves and rushed out in all directions. The two swords in Li Fan's hands became even brighter. They trembled slightly as if they were resonating with the surrounding air. Golden Eagle Castle Lord, you're only a so-so. Li Fan raised his head and looked at Yin Wuchao as he spat. How dare you? I think you're tired of living. Yin Wuchao was enraged. He raised his saber again, but Li Fan's movements were even faster. The vermilion bird flapped its wings and flew out of the four elephants' sword with surging true qi, charging straight at Yin Wuchao. Yin Wuchao frowned and raised his saber. The saber energy cut the vermilion bird into two. The vermilion bird wailed and dissipated in the air unwillingly. The hero's sword swung out a crescent moon sword energy, but it followed like a shadow and arrived in front of Yin Wuchao. Yin Wuchao laughed out loud and slashed the crescent moon sword energy with his saber. I knew you would use this move. It's just a small trick. Yin Wuchao was very pleased with himself. However, a crescent moon hung upside down in the sky and instantly flew in front of him. Pfft! Yin Wuchao dodged in a panic. A cut appeared on his shoulder, and blood splattered out. Yin Wuchao flipped and stood up. He held his saber and frowned. He stared at Li Fan as if he wanted to see through Li Fan's soul. Yin Wuchao had already expected that the two swords would have special sword energy. However, he didn't expect Li Fan to be able to kick out a crescent moon sword energy. Just how strong was his true qi? Yin Wuchao, take this. Li Fan suddenly jumped up and slashed his sword towards Yin Wuchao's head. Yin Wuchao hurriedly raised his saber to block, but Li Fan slashed again and again. Yin Wuchao was in a very sorry state. Didn't you say it was one strike? Ah, did I say that? Li Fan refused to admit it. Yin Wuchao was so angry that he almost vomited blood. I must kill this brat today. If you have the guts, don't use a sword. Yin Wuchao was so angry that he started to spout nonsense. What kind of hero are you to fight me with two peerless swords? Castle Lord Yin, you're really muddle-headed. Li Fan said as he put the two swords back into the scabbard. But I don't need these two swords to beat you. You're courting death. Yin Wuchao was overjoyed. Li Fan actually gave up on the two swords. Although he didn't take it to heart at the start, he could feel the pressure from the two swords now. Now was the chance to kill Li Fan. How could Yin Wuchao miss this opportunity? He directly slashed at Li Fan. Yin Wuchao's saber was said to be able to slay dragons and evil spirits. It could slash anything. Thus, Yin Wuchao was very confident that he could slash Li Fan into two and make him die without a complete corpse. However, Li Fan slightly leaned to the side and dodged Yin Wuchao's saber. At the same time, he formed a crane hand with his right hand and struck out. Clang! Crane! A huge force came from Yin Wuchao's saber. He nearly let the saber fly out of his hand. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger had already split open and blood was dripping out. At the same time, Li Fan's right hand grabbed a ball of qi and directly hit Yin Wuchao's lower abdomen. Golden Toad's spitting pearl. Yin Wuchao felt like he was hit by a train. He felt like he was about to vomit out the food he ate last night. His body was suddenly sent flying. The clothes on his lower abdomen were all torn and his muscles were twisted. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels suffered heavy injuries. Chapter 631. Yin Wuchao spat out a large mouthful of blood, then watched as his blood flew away along with the roof, leaving him. Bang! Yin Wuchao fell heavily on the ground, and even his saber fell to the side. His mind was in a mess for a moment, as if he couldn't figure out what had just happened. However, he was an expert after all, and this bit of panic soon passed. When he came to his senses, he saw that Li Fan had already walked in front of him. Li Fan's figure seemed to be pressing down on his heart. He quickly flipped over and jumped up from the ground. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and pulled the saber into his hand with true energy erupting from his palm. Yin Wuchao became one with the saber and slashed at Li Fan. His entire body seemed to have turned into a saber light and slashed at Li Fan. This saber seemed to be able to cut the sky in half. Li Fan's body moved to the side, and the saber light immediately flew out and cut the stable behind him in half. The horses inside panicked as if a disaster had descended. Yin Wuchao appeared on the other side of the stable with his saber in hand and looked coldly at Li Fan. This gaze made Li Fan feel as if he had fallen into an icehouse. This saber technique was indeed a bit domineering. Scared? Yin Wuchao chuckled. This is my trump card, lightning saber. This lightning saber was really fast. Moreover, it was sharp enough to shoot out like a flash of light. A dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from Li Fan's body. His true energy covered his body as if he was wearing a golden armor. The radiance of the armor illuminated the town, and even the moon was dyed gold. Golden armor. Li Fan stretched out his hands and grabbed the saber light with his bare hands. Clang! Yin Wuchao's saber was caught by Li Fan with both hands, and the surrounding ground cracked from the saber energy. Yin Wuchao's eyes were wide open as he held the saber with both hands and looked at Li Fan in astonishment. What martial art is this? The 7 Heroes' Fist. Li Fan smiled faintly. Impossible. This must be a martial art from the 9 Buddha Sutra. Hand over the 9 Buddha Sutra. Yin Wuchao roared again and again. The saber in his hand turned into a flash of light and circled around Li Fan, leaving a terrifying circular mark on the ground. However, Li Fan wasn't afraid at all. He raised his hands in front of him and punched out again and again, slapping Yin Wuchao's saber light away. With the protection of the golden armor, Li Fan was like a god of war who had descended from the heavens. He was majestic and unafraid of any evil aura. Li Fan's eyes suddenly lit up like a star in the night sky. He suddenly reached out with his left hand and grabbed Yin Wuchao's throat from the saber light. Snake capture. Li Fan grabbed Yin Wuchao's throat and smashed him onto the ground. Snake capture. What they were competing for was the agility of their hands and eyes. They were playing defense and counterattack. Li Fan had beaten Yin Wuchao into a miserable state. He was moving at high speed when he was suddenly intercepted by Li Fan. His throat was almost pierced. He was almost suffocated, but Li Fan's attack wasn't over yet. Li Fan raised Yin Wuchao's body into the air again and threw him up. Yin Wuchao's body fell towards the ground again. Li Fan suddenly raised his right fist and punched Yin Wuchao's waist. This time, Yin Wuchao felt like he was falling from the sky and into the mortal world. His lumbar vertebra let out a cracking sound. It was obvious that he was heavily injured. If it wasn't for his powerful internal energy and divine technique protecting his body, his lumbar vertebra would have been completely broken. Yin Wuchao's body was stretched out and his waist was in great pain. He rolled down in a sorry state and felt like his waist was on fire. He couldn't use any strength in his legs. Li Fan. This old man will settle this debt with you. Yin Wuchao wasn't an idiot. He knew that he had underestimated Li Fan this time. As the saying goes, escape is the best strategy. Right now, he can only escape. Yin Wuchao threw out a ruthless sentence and turned around to run. He used his qinggong to step on a nearby house and disappeared into the night sky. Want to run? Li Fan sneered. This Yin Wuchao is really carefree. He can come and go as he pleases. Does he think this is a city gate? Li Fan was about to use the deer scamper to chase after Yin Wuchao but was pulled back by Lu Zhu. Forget it. Don't chase a cornered enemy. Lu Zhu said, Yin Wuchao is a cunning old fox with a belly full of schemes and tricks. Who knows if he left on purpose and set up an ambush, waiting for us to walk into it. Although Li Fan doesn't like to be lectured, he has to admit that Lu Zhu's words made sense. Yin Wuchao is indeed cunning. He imprisoned the previous owner of the Golden Eagle Castle for so long and no one in the pugilistic world knew about it. He even called Yin Wuchao young master modest. This is his ability. This kind of person is full of schemes. It is better to stay away from him. The most important thing now is to hurry to Kunlun Mountain. Lu Zhu opened her black jade fan, revealing the black brocade fan. On the fan, there are golden words. It is an ancient text. The body of the 28 beauties is limp. The sword at the waist beheads fools. Although there is no head, it secretly makes the monarch's marrow dry. Just this one line. Li Fan is a little surprised. Why is there a line from Jin Ping Mei on the fan? This Lu Zhu was probably also a distinguished scholar. While Li Fan is thinking, Lu Zhu waves the fan in front of him. Hey, did you hear what I said? Oh, what did you say? Li Fan suddenly woke up. He is so angry that Lu Zhu wants to step on him. I said, we should hurry to Kunlun Mountain. No, I still have to wait for Tangan. Li Fan and Tangan agreed to meet at the inn. The Tangan you are talking about, is he that person? Lu Zhu's eyes suddenly fell to the distance, and then he pointed. Li Fan followed his finger and looked into the distance. He immediately felt a chill. Fear is like a virus, quickly growing in his body. Anger is like a flame, burning from the virus. In the distance, on a towering ancient tree, several men's corpses are hanging. One of them is obviously Kunlun Mountain's disciple, Tangan. His face is swollen and pale, as if he has been dead for some time. Li Fan's body slightly trembles. When he was asleep, the man who was full of energy and talked about leaning on the sword, laughing in the cool breeze, and falling snow dance with him, died just like that? Damn it! Li Fan grabbed Lu Zhu, his eyes burning with hatred. Did you kill him? How is that possible? I'll sleep with you all the time. Lu Zhu immediately argued, moreover, why would I kill him? Does he have the ability to stop me from going to Kunlun Mountain? Lu Zhu's words awaken Li Fan. If it is not Lu Zhu, there is no meaning in him killing Tangan. Then, who did it? Li Fan fell into deep thought. Chapter 632. Tangan died in such an inexplicable way. Moreover, his death was extremely cruel. His intestines were cut open and then hung on this tree. It was like some kind of strange memorial ceremony. Tang An was killed like slaughtering a chicken or a sheep, as if he was sacrificed to the heaven and earth. Even if Li Fan's temper was much better now, seeing this scene, a chill ran from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. His whole body was cold to the extreme, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Then, that anger was like a firecracker, instantly igniting Li Fan's anger. Like a volcano that suddenly erupted after a long silence, the rolling magma seemed to swallow everything. Who the hell would use this kind of method? Angering both humans and gods. Li Fan was forcefully suppressing his anger. He felt as if there was a ball of fire burning in his stomach. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. In this pugilistic world, there are 7 big monsters. Lu Zhu saw that Li Fan's anger was soaring. He did not dare to provoke Li Fan, so he honestly said. These 7 big monsters each have their own quirks. Just like your thief and escort agency's cat, she is one of them. Her quirk is to steal. And among the 7 big monsters, there is a person nicknamed Bald Eagle. His quirk is to kill. Lu Zhu pointed at the few people hanging on the tree with their intestines cut open and continued, look at these people. Their abdomens were cut open, their intestines are flowing out, and they are tied with a strange knot. If I'm not wrong, in this pugilistic world, only Bald Eagle likes to use this kind of method. If there is even the slightest bit of falsehood in what you said, I will not forgive you. Li Fan looked at Lu Zhu. This one look made Lu Zhu's heart and soul almost fly away. Who is Li Fan? What kind of person is he? Not to say that he is one of the best, but his domineering aura can make people's heart jump. Lu Zhu was also scared. He obediently stood to the side, not daring to make a sound. At the same time, he was muttering in his heart. This Li Fan. How could he have me in his palm? I have obviously schemed against him many times. I am telling the truth. Lu Zhu's voice slightly trembled, not a single lie. What Lu Zhu said was true, and there was not the slightest bit of exaggeration. Bald Eagle was indeed such a character. His name could even stop a child's crying if it got out. Okay, Bald Eagle, I'll remember him. Li Fan sneered. This Bald Eagle might also be after the 9 Buddha Sutra. Oh. After all, he is also a member of solipsism, Lu Zhu laughed dryly, but at that moment, his vision suddenly blurred. Then, Li Fan arrived in front of him. At the same time, he grabbed Lu Zhu's neck and lifted him into the air. Cough cough. You're crazy, Lu Zhu desperately kicked and hit Li Fan, but Li Fan remained unmoved. I knew that your solipsism sect doesn't have any good people. Li Fan's eyes emitted coldness, you solipsism sect people deserve to die. As Li Fan spoke, his hand tightened even more. Lu Zhu felt suffocated. Death was like a huge hand, wrapping around Lu Zhu, making him unable to escape. It was as if he was about to enter the darkness of death. Save me. Although Lu Zhu did not want to admit defeat, at this moment, he had no other choice. If he wanted dignity, he would not want his life. If he wanted his life, he would not want his dignity. Lu Zhu hesitated for a moment before deciding to take his life. However, Li Fan did not have any intention to be lenient. Instead, his hand tightened even more, about to strangle Lu Zhu to death. Lu Zhu suddenly spoke again. I can help you find the Bald Eagle. Li Fan swung his hand and threw Lu Zhu to the ground. If you can't find him, you will die in his place. Right now, Li Fan hates the people of the devil religion to the bone. This bunch of damn bastards, they are simply too heartless. This Tang An had no enmity with them, yet he was killed so cruelly. This is simply intolerable. Li Fan has decided to avenge Tang An. This Bald Eagle's life has already been recorded in the Book of Death. No, it can't be. Lu Zhu looked at Li Fan and bit her lips. This damn bastard, I must find an opportunity to teach him a lesson. Then let's not wait anymore. Let's go to Kunlun Mountain during the night. Lu Zhu patted the dust on his body and looked at the sky. When we arrive at Kunlun Mountain, the sky should be bright. All right. Li Fan did not refuse. If the bald eagle really went to Kunlun Mountain, I will also go there without stopping. Damn it, that Tangan still owes me 100,000 yuan. If I kill him just like that, where am I going to get the money? Damn devil religion, this time, young master, and you are irreconcilable. Li Fan gritted his teeth as if he wanted to eat someone. Lu Zhu sighed. Seeing Li Fan like this, she felt that it is indeed a bit scary. The two of them pulled out 2 good horses that very night and directly went to Kunlun Mountain. After crossing 2 mountains, the majestic Kunlun Mountain appeared in front of them. A silver-white mountain range, rising and falling, is like a dragon lying on the horizon, waiting to leap into the sky and fly away. The top of the mountain is covered with ice and snow that never melts for thousands of years. Starting from the mountainside, there are lush green trees all the way down to the front of Li Fan and Lu Zhu. At this time, Li Fan is only wearing an ordinary red and black sportswear, with 2 swords hanging on his waist. His starry eyes seem to carry electric light, shooting toward Kunlun Mountain. Lu Zhu is following beside him. He is wearing black silk and gold-embroidered brocade clothes. At first glance, it is obvious that he is very expensive, giving off the feeling of a noble son. The 2 Sfergana horses are galloping wildly in the night. The hooves of the horses step on the grass, splashing up the mud and shaking wildly behind. Li Fan, we have arrived at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. Lu Zhu glanced up the mountain and saw the pure white snow. It won't be long before we can go up the mountain. Yes. Li Fan also glanced at the snow-covered Kunlun Mountain, feeling a sense of mystery and oppression. The sword-leaning Smile Light Breeze really knows how to choose a place. He actually built the headquarters on Kunlun Mountain, which can be regarded as a kind of immortal aura. Perhaps that Luo Shuewu also thinks of me as a fairy from the 9th heaven. Li Fan muttered in his heart and couldn't help but laugh. Lu Zhu is a little uneasy. This Li Fan can't be thinking of killing me in the wilderness, right? Kunlun Mountain is so big, where would a headquarters be built? Li Fan slowed down the horse, gently pulled the reins, and asked. Ah. Lu Zhu is still uneasy in his heart. In his mind, he has already imagined 100 ways to die. Just as he thought of Li Fan pressing him on the back of the horse and raping him to death, he was awakened by Li Fan's call. He turned his head and looked at Li Fan with some fear. His eyes, it is as if Li Fan can eat him. Chapter 633. Li Fan looked at Lu Zhu and saw the fear in his eyes. Why are you looking at me like that? It's not like I'm going to eat you. Big, probably. Hee hee. Lu Zhu didn't really believe Li Fan's words. Right now, he had no confidence. Where do we go up the mountain? Li Fan asked. Kunlun Mountain is so big, where is the main hall of the Laughing Sword sect? Kunlun Mountain, which was connected to the sky, was a vast expanse of white. Even if they ran for 2 days and 2 nights, they still wouldn't be able to reach the end. Moreover, it was covered with white snow. It would be very difficult for a horse to run in such a place. In that direction. Lu Zhu pointed forward, go up the mountain from here and you will see the front hall of the Laughing Sword sect. That place is currently recruiting new martial artists. All the new martial artists must pass the front hall's test before they can enter the main hall. This is really troublesome. Li Fan looked at the distant mountain and subconsciously muttered, if we fight our way up, it would be much easier. Are you kidding? Lu Zhu was surprised, fight our way up. Only the sect would do that, right? Ah, you're right. As if suddenly enlightened, Li Fan clapped his hands and nodded, that makes sense. After all, I'm a righteous person. I should go up the mountain in the style of a righteous person. Lu Zhu wanted to roll his eyes, thinking, now you know you're a righteous person. Humph, I said the wrong thing. In this world, how can there be any righteous person? How can there be a distinction between black and white? Some people kill people and say it's for the sake of the people. Some people kill people and say it's a waste of human life. This is morality, this is the rule. But can morality and rules sometimes weigh the pros and cons? What do you think we should do? Li Fan asked for Lu Zhu's opinion. No harm. Let's just beat them at their own game and go up the mountain to participate in the recruitment. Lu Zhu rolled his eyes and said. You're still thinking about this? Li Fan was a little surprised. People like us, if we go up the mountain, won't we be recognized? Brother Li, you can fool others, but you can't fool me. At this moment, Lu Zhu's courage grew a little bigger. He mustered up his courage and said, I know that you know how to change bones. Is it difficult for you to change your appearance? I came here this time to help Shao Qingfeng overcome his difficulties, and to find the whereabouts of that bald eagle. Li Fan immediately said, I'm not here to join the Laughing Sword Breeze. No problem, there's no conflict. Lu Zhu explained, let's use an alias and sneak into the Laughing Sword Breeze. Otherwise, if we were to enter rashly, they might not welcome us. Your guide is no longer around. This is the only way, right? Li Fan pondered for a moment. He didn't want to be a fool. If he was played by Lu Zhu again, he would lose a lot of face. He had just retrieved the 4 elephants' sword. He couldn't let Lu Zhu cheat him of the hero's sword. He really had to be more careful when dealing with this guy who had no hair on his head. What are you afraid of? It's not like I can escape from your palm. Lu Zhu said, I already said that I'm just a small character in solipsism sect. You see, if I'm powerful, how could I always act alone without bringing a few lackeys with me? Solipsism sect, whether it's the higher-ups or the lackeys, in my eyes, they are all people who deserve to die. Li Fan said coldly. You see, with your appearance, how could I dare to provoke you? Lu Zhu rolled his eyes. You're a man, why are you always acting like a sissy? You sissy, I'll introduce you to Yan Kai later. Li Fan thought for a moment and felt that something was wrong. Although Yan Kai looked like a gay, he didn't seem to be a sissy at all. Why would I have such a thought? This is really strange. Li Fan shook his head. He felt that he couldn't trust Lu Zhu too much. This person is a scary little devil. His words might not have any lethality, but it's like boiling a frog in warm water. By the time you realize that you've been tricked, it would already be too late. Alright, since you don't believe me, then I won't care anymore. I'll listen to you. You can do whatever you want. You can also fight your way up the mountain. I'll risk my life to fight alongside you. Li Fan thought about it again and felt that he seemed to be a little timid and overly sentimental. Alright, then we'll do as you say. Young master will be a person who laughs at the cool breeze with his sword. As Li Fan spoke, he kicked the horse's stomach with both of his legs, causing the Fergana horse to raise its hooves and start galloping again. Lu Zhu hurriedly followed behind him, afraid that she would be left behind. The two of them, one in front and one behind, galloped through the mountain in the wee hours of the morning. The sky started to turn white, and a smear of red appeared on the top of the mountain, causing the pure white snow to turn pink, giving off a feeling of elegance. The red light shone on the two of them, as if they were wearing a red coat. The two of them whipped their horses and quickly arrived at the mountainside of Kunlun Mountain. The front hall of the Laughing at the Cool Breeze with the Sword was located here. It was an ancient building with red walls and green tiles, with an area of about 200 square meters. At the very front of the front hall was a huge door, with 2 dragon pillars on top of a stone plaque with the words, Laughing at the Cool Breeze with the Sword, written on it. On both sides of the door, there was a stone tablet with a poem engraved on it. On the left was, Flying Snow and Freezing Sky, 10,000 Miles of Frost. On the right was, Unstoppable Sword Chi, Slaying Demons and Eradicating Devils. Li Fan thought to himself, damn, it's not neat. These two poems are not neat, but they were given by the first alliance master, Lu Jinchan. Lu Zhu seemed to have a deep understanding of these things. At that time, Lu Jinchan had a supreme beauty by his side. Her name was Wei Fang. This woman was Luo Xuewu's ancestor. I heard that she was a woman as pure as ice and as clean as jade. In order to express his love for this woman, Lu Jinchan specially wrote this poem and gave it to Wei Fang. Looks like this Lu Jinchan's literary attainments are a bit lacking. Li Fan couldn't help but shrug his shoulders. Who is it that dares to spout such arrogant words and criticize our alliance master? Just as Lu Zhu and Li Fan were discussing this matter, two figures suddenly appeared from the side, descending from the sky. The two of them were wearing black robes, with the insignia of the Laughing at the Cool Breeze with a small golden sword on their chests. The two of them had an imposing appearance, and with one look, one could tell that they were not ordinary people. They were the two gate gods of the Laughing at the Cool Breeze with the Cool Breeze, Qing Feng and Ming Yu. The two of them were the guards of the front hall, guarding the door of the Laughing at the Cool Breeze with the Cool Breeze. They were the first checkpoint of the Laughing at the Cool Breeze with the Cool Breeze. Lu Zhu immediately dismounted and cupped his hands towards the two of them. My apologies, I am Lu Zhu, and he is Li Er. We are here to recruit new members. Lu Zhu's fame wasn't as great as Li Fan's, and Li Fan had already changed his appearance. Chapter 634. The current Li Fan, whose pseudonym was Li Er, was short and ordinary-looking. He looked like the kind that would be hard to find in a crowd. The pseudonym hadn't been decided yet. Now that Lu Zhu made up a name, Li Fan complained incessantly. Damn it, this name is too stupid. Oh, where are you two from? Which sect are you from? Qing Feng and Ming Yu glanced at them. Ming Yu seemed to be more cautious and asked. I'm a disciple of the Tang sect. Lu Zhu suddenly opened his black jade fan and waved it in front of him. And Li Fan, who was standing behind him, jumped off the horse to avoid being exposed. Let everything be natural. This is a disciple of the 8 trigrams school. He's very good at 8 trigrams palm. Lu Zhu introduced Li Fan. Li Fan nodded and stretched out his right hand. Then he suddenly stabbed his palm into the tree trunk beside him. The willow tree was cut into 2 by Li Fan's palm just like that. This palm was indeed a kung fu of the 8 trigrams school. Qing Feng and Ming Yu believed him immediately. Oh, you're 2 excellent disciples of the 8 trigrams school from the Tang sect. Sorry for not recognizing you. After all, they were from a famous sect, so Qing Feng and Ming Yu were naturally much more respectful. I'm really sorry for talking nonsense about the chief just now. Please forgive me. Lu Zhu was very considerate in this aspect. His etiquette was very good. Even when he bowed, he used the standard 90 degrees. The two people opposite him could not find any fault with him. Instead, they felt that these two people were gentle and elegant, worthy of being from a famous family. Since you're here to recruit new members, this way, please. Qing Feng and Ming Yu took out 2 black wooden tablets from their bosom and handed them to Li Fan and Lu Zhu. These are the wooden tablets for registration. They are carved from black pear wood. This black pear wood is a specialty of our Kunlun mountain. I'll carve your names on it, and then you can join the recruitment. Thank you, senior brothers. Lu Zhu cupped his hands at them. Qing Feng and Ming Yu were about to lead them in. Ming Yu was more vigilant. She suddenly turned around and stared at Li Fan from head to toe. Why aren't you saying anything? Ming Yu suddenly asked. Li Fan was a little unhappy, and with Lu Zhu, such a clever person, helping him settle everything, he was too lazy to talk. However, Li Fan was a little surprised by Ming Yu's question. How should I answer? At that moment, this thought flashed through Li Fan's mind. He thought of many answers, but he eliminated them one by one. He's a mute. Lu Zhu suddenly answered for Li Fan. He seemed to have seen through Li Fan's thoughts, so he wanted to use these words to shut their mouths. Mute? Who were you talking to just now? Mingyu looked at Lu Zhu with even more vigilance. That's me talking. He can only use some simple gestures to talk to me. Lu Zhu's answer was flawless. Moreover, I have a bad habit. I'm not afraid of being laughed at by two senior brothers, but I like to speak up for my brother Li. You? Why are you speaking up for him? Mingyu frowned, and Qing Feng, who was next to him, gently placed his hand on the sword at his waist. It's like this. Lu Zhu suddenly began to speak, and his voice suddenly turned into Li Fan's. Senior brothers, what do you think? Not to mention Qing Feng and Mingyu, even Li Fan was a little shocked. Junior brother, you're so talented. Amazing, amazing. Mingyu cupped his hands towards Lu Zhu, but his eyes were on Li Fan's waist, and saw the two swords that he was carrying. This was indeed a little strange. Why would someone from the 8 trigram school carry two swords? Although the two swords had been wrapped in yellow silk by Li Fan, making them look more low-key, it was a little strange for one person to carry two swords. However, it was a little strange for one person to carry two swords. Moreover, the 8 trigram school only practiced palm techniques and footwork, so there was no need for treasured swords. Senior brothers, to tell you the truth, this brother of mine has a hobby, which is to collect swords. Lu Zhu began to smooth things over for Li Fan. These two swords are the best in his collection, and they are his life's love. So every time he goes out, he never leaves them, and he must carry them with him. I see. The two finally seemed to let down their guard a little. You two may be able to make some achievements. Mingyu, I'll continue to guard the door. You take them to see Elder Wang. Okay. Hearing Qing Feng's instructions, Mingyu nodded and led the two all the way to the depths of the main hall. The area of the front hall was not small. After entering, they saw a clean courtyard surrounded by piles of snow, but the center was very clean, leaving only a floor of bricks and tiles. You two came at the right time. Today is the last day of recruitment, and we won't recruit anymore tomorrow. Mingyu said. Why? Lu Zhu was a little puzzled. I remember that the recruitment will last for 15 days, right? It's only the 8th day. Lu Zhu's calculation was accurate. Mingyu said with a sad face, we have no choice. Recently, the devil cult has been making too much noise, and they even want to take advantage of me. Devil cult, Lu Zhu seemed a little scared. They are coming. Mingyu and Qing Feng looked at each other and smiled. Then Mingyu patted Lu Zhu's shoulder. You are still young, but don't be afraid. If you can't pass the test, you will naturally go down the mountain. If you pass, you'll be a member of my Sword Reliance Xiao Qing Feng, and you'll be under my protection. It is true that the devil cult is annoying, but when it comes to my Yijian Xiao Qing Feng, they are just looking for trouble and seeking their own death. I am not afraid of them. Lu Zhu's voice rose by 8 octaves. I am a disciple of Tang's sect. How can I be afraid of those devil cult demons? Ha ha ha, good. Qing Feng and Mingyu laughed, and then pointed at the brick and tile floor in front. Go there and accept the first round of test. Okay, then I will go first. Lu Zhu walked over and stood in the middle of the courtyard. You also stand there. Mingyu pointed at Li Fan. This first round is to test your endurance. I lean on my sword and laugh at the cool breeze. In this snowy Kunlun mountain, every one of us who lean on our swords must have the unswerving determination to withstand the cold. The two of you, take off your clothes now and freeze here for 6 hours. Li Fan said, this is a piece of cake. Without saying anything, he immediately took off his shirt and pants. Wearing only a pair of underpants, he stood in the middle of the freezing courtyard. With the protection of true qi, this cold was nothing to Li Fan. But Lu Zhu stood at the side, bashful and unwilling to take off her clothes. Lu Zhu, why don't you take off your clothes? Mingyu asked Lu Zhu. Everyone's eyes fell on Lu Zhu. Chapter 635. Two Senior Brothers. You don't know. Lu Zhu said with some shame, I have a birthmark on my body, which is extremely ugly. But I care about my face, and I really don't like to show this ugly place on my body. In front of others. Well, your clothes are not thick. Qing Feng and Ming Yu were only in charge of the first round of assessment, so they didn't want to make things difficult for Lu Zhu. If that's the case, you can wear this unlined garment. But in this case, the two of you will have to wait for 12 hours instead of 6 hours. Do you dare? Hey! Why not? Lu Zhu smiled, my friend is the same. 12 hours is nothing for us. Okay, then let's begin. Qing Feng and Ming Yu looked at the time and then turned around to meditate in the small house nearby. Although they were in the small house, they could observe the outside through the window and keep an eye on Li Fan and Lu Zhu at all times. The 12 hours test was their first round. The sky was already bright, but the Kunlun mountain was still chilly. Li Fan stood there naked, not trembling at all. He was like an old monk in meditation, motionless. Lu Zhu, on the other hand, was different. He kept circling around Li Fan, not stopping for even a minute. The cold wind blew on the two of them, but it didn't bring them the slightest chill. The quality of these two people is not bad. Yeah, but it's a pity that Li Er is a mute. It doesn't matter if he's a mute, as long as he's healthy. Qing Feng and Ming Yu chatted in the room. Although their voices were soft, they didn't know that Li Fan had heard them. Li Fan's internal force was so strong that no movement within 2 miles could escape his ears. How long are you going to walk? Li Fan asked Lu Zhu, who was walking back and forth, using the secret sound transmission technique. It's been 12 hours. Lu Zhu also transmitted his voice to Li Fan, and the two of them began to talk. Are you sick? Come on, it's very boring. Lu Zhu pouted. I have to stand for 12 hours. I'll go crazy if I don't move for 12 hours. I think you've gone crazy, ADHD guy. Li Fan was too lazy to pay attention to Lu Zhu. He simply sat there with his eyes on his nose and his nose on his heart. He crossed his arms and entered a meditative state. The Jinqi in his body began to circulate according to Li Fan's will, slowly circulating in a circular motion. After the minor heavenly cycle was the major heavenly cycle, and after the major heavenly cycle was the heaven and earth cycle. Li Fan let his true qi wander, he felt the changes in the circulation of his true qi. He felt as if he was traveling between heaven and earth. The feeling of transcendence was very joyous. Li Fan entered the realm of introspection again. Then, he stepped into the realm of nothingness and arrived at his visualization world. The 7 ferocious beasts were hidden in the clouds. He sat down cross-legged and was as quiet as a painting. On top of Li Fan's head, 5 streams of white smoke came out. It was the 5 flowers blooming. Fortunately, Qing Feng and Ming Yue were far away. They only saw the white smoke coming out of Li Fan's head and did not notice that it was formed by the convergence of 5 streams. Qing Feng was still sighing. This kid actually has a single flower on his head. He has quite a lot of potential. Yes, it's indeed so. How enviable. The two of them could not hide the envy in their eyes. If they knew that Li Fan had the 5 flowers blooming on his head, they would probably commit suicide. They could not see it, but Lu Zhu could see it clearly. She was shocked. My goodness, the 5 flowers blooming. The 5 flowers blooming. In the entire Jianghu, how many people have such a realm? Li Fan, this guy, it's fine if he knows the alien bone transformation, but now he also has the 5 flowers blooming. He simply does not let others live. The human body has the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Li Fan has all of them. His future is limitless. Lu Zhu could not help but envy him to death. She was almost jealous. Why don't I just kill him here and now? No. I still have a lot of things to do. Killing him would be letting him off too easily. He had to make good use of him first and squeeze out all of his value. Yes, so what if his martial arts are good? I still have him under my control. Humph. Lu Zhu was no longer in the mood to leave. He also began to meditate. But Lu Zhu was not like Li Fan, who could meditate while standing. He found a clean place and sat down cross-legged. His hands formed a circle, and he began to meditate. When Qingfeng and Mingyue saw the white smoke rising from Lu Zhu's head, they could not sit still anymore. These two people are actually martial arts geniuses. Sigh, birds of a feather flock together. Mingyue could not help but sigh. The two of them were geniuses. No wonder they were together. Luckily these two people want to join my sword. If they join other alliances, it would be our loss. Yes, that makes sense. The two of them secretly rejoiced. Then, as if unwilling to admit defeat, they also began to meditate seriously. 12 hours later, the sky was dark. The cold wind blew on the mountainside, and the two Fergana horses were so cold that they kept stamping their hooves. Li Fan seemed to have set his biological clock. When the 12th hour passed, he suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like the stars in the night sky, which made Qingfeng and Mingyue, who were about to go out, tremble. This guy is a good material. It's a pity that he is mute. Li Fan patted Lu Zhu to wake him up. It's already been 12 hours. Once a person entered the state of cultivation, he would really not pay attention to the outside world. Lu Zhu stood up. Looking at the dark night, he subconsciously moved closer to Li Fan. You two have passed the first round of the test. Qingfeng and Mingyue asked for their wooden plates. They carved their names on them and pressed a fingerprint on the back with their internal force. Take this and go to the main hall. The two of them returned their wooden tokens. It seemed that with this token, they would be able to enter the main hall. Thank you, senior brothers. Lu Zhu put away the wooden plates and cupped one hand in the other before his chest with Li Fan. It's the honor of my sword to have you two join us. Go now. The four waved goodbye. Li Fan and Lu Zhu whipped their horses and went all the way to the headquarters. Qingfeng and Mingyue were quite pleased. When they were about to rest, there were suddenly many footsteps in the forest. Their eyes sharpened at the same time, and they pulled out their swords at the same time. Qingfeng even shouted angrily. Who is visiting us in the middle of the night? Come out. As soon as he finished speaking, dense figures suddenly came out of the forest in front of the gate. These figures were all wearing black and red coats and holding all kinds of weapons in their hands. They stared at Qingfeng and Mingyue like tigers watching their prey. Dogs of the devil cult. Qingfeng and Mingyue looked at each other. The swords in their hands were full of natural qi. But in the next second, a figure swept past them. At the same time, his hands were like claws, and he directly took off their heads as if he were picking melons. Chapter 636. Li Fan and Lu Zhu quickly arrived at the main hall of the Sword Reliance. This place was different from the courtyard in the front hall. The first thing they saw was a towering high wall. The wall was 20 meters high and extended endlessly. Li Fan had no idea how far it extended. Looking at it, Li Fan was shocked. It was as if he had arrived at an ancient fortress. The outer wall of this headquarters is 20 meters tall and 10 kilometers long. It can be said to be like a small Great Wall. Lu Zhu whispered into Li Fan's ear. He seemed to be very familiar with these things. The sword-leaning Ice Queen Luo Xuewu relied on her personal charm and many experts around her. Among them, the most powerful are the four heavenly kings of Sword Reliance. Lu Zhu began to count her fingers. Among them, the most famous is the dragon crossing the river Zhan Xiaotian. With a single move, Flying Dragon Palm, he forced the heroes of the world to retreat. Then there was the Iron Tower King, Guo Mingming. He trained in the iron skin technique. He had a copper head and iron bones, making him invulnerable. Her nickname is Goddess of Beasts. She cultivates the beast-subduing art and is very good at Xingyi boxing. Aren't there 4 people? And the last one? Li Fan could not help but ask. The last one seems to be called Night Rain Tower. Lu Zhu muttered, this person hasn't joined the Sword Reliance Guild for long, and he doesn't have much of a reputation in the Jianghu. But since he's already one of the 4 heavenly kings, he should have some strength. Interesting. Li Fan laughed, I believe that these 4 heavenly kings are quite capable. I really want to fight with them. Stop fooling around. These 4 people are very powerful. Lu Zhu reminded Li Fan, the 4 of them are much stronger than Luo Xuewu. Being able to control 4 subordinates who are stronger than her means that this person is either very capable or very charming. I want to meet her immediately. Calm down. We're new here. How could we possibly meet Yi Jian's alliance master right away? At most, we will see the incense master first, then the hall master, and finally the alliance master. Get lost. I don't have that much time. When Li Fan heard the name of the 4 heavenly kings, his heart began to itch. He pulled on the reins and couldn't help but say, why don't we fight our way in? You. Am I the devil cult or are you the devil cult? Tui tui, what demonic cult, it's only me cult. Lu Zhu had fallen into a trap for herself. Alright, Li Fan suppressed his restlessness and followed Lu Zhu to the bottom of the city wall. Who is it? The guard standing on the city wall berated loudly. Li Fan was shocked. My god, this guard's inner force is quite pure. Is Yi Jian really an elite? I'm here to recruit new people. Big brother guard, please let us through. Lu Zhu patted Li Fan's shoulder and raised the wooden sign with him. Even at such a distance, the guards could still see everything clearly. Their eyesight was far beyond that of ordinary people. Amazing. Li Fan couldn't help but praise in his heart. Let them pass. The guard opened the door and let Li Fan and the others in. Upon entering Yi Jian's headquarters, Li Fan and Lu Zhu couldn't help but take a few more glances. In front of them were paved green bricks, extending from their feet to a very far place, connecting to the mountain road in the distance, and then extending upwards. It was like a stairway to heaven, connecting to the mountains above, as though it was connected to the sky. The surrounding rows of pavilions and terraces were also laid out along the green brick road. They were arranged in picturesque disorder and orderly. The 2 rows of buildings were covered in snow, as though they were wrapped in a white coat, causing Yi Jian's headquarters to feel like it was in a dream or a celestial mirror. If I can live in such a place, it would not be a pleasure. Lu Zhu looked at the clean street in front of him, opened his black jade fan, and fanned himself twice. Are you crazy? Why are you fanning yourself on such a snowy day? Li Fan could not help but ridicule. What do you know, this is called feelings. Lu Zhu rolled her eyes at Li Fan, causing Li Fan to laugh out loud. But as a guard walked past them, he immediately retracted his smile. The 2 of them got off their horses and watched as the guard walked in front of them. Greetings, big brother guard. Lu Zhu and Li Fan cupped their hands together, and Lu Zhu did not forget to introduce Li Fan's special identity. I am Lu Zhu, and he is Li Er, a mute. Oh, come with me. The guard did not say anything else, and led the 2 of them on the green stone road, walking into the depths of the city. At the same time, in the territory of Sichuan Fang Rong Building, this was a very famous landmark in Chengdu. It was said that the boss was a famous businessman, one of the top 10 outstanding entrepreneurs in Chengdu. It was said that the guards of Fang Rong Building were the best in Chengdu, each of them wearing a black and red uniform, well-trained, and extraordinary. These people stood in 2 rows at the entrance of Fang Rong Building, frequently attracting the attention of passers-by. But today, Fang Rong Building received an uninvited guest. Murong Ying, wearing a blue and white qipao, slowly walked to the entrance of Fang Rong Building. Behind her, there were only 2 people, plain-looking, silent. One carried a golden sword, and the other carried a silver sword. It was only 3 people, but they brought with them a powerful aura, causing a group of guards to be scared pale. Which of these guards did not know who Muronging was? Take care of them. Muronging ordered indifferently, and then walked into the building as if there was no one else around. Stop her. The guards roared, and each of them immediately circulated the true chi in their body, roaring loudly. Their words were like spring thunder, deafening. But the gold and silver swordsman made a move. The 2 of them pointed forward, and 2 sword rays shot out, 1 gold and 1 silver, attacking from the left and right, instantly piercing the throats of several guards. More guards fled in panic. They just realized one thing, and that was that they were far from being a match for these people. They were too strong. Just like that, Muronging walked into the building. A man in a long red and black robe suddenly jumped from the 2nd floor to the lobby. He fell from the sky like a dark cloud dyed red and crashed onto the ground. He raised his head and pointed the great spear in his hand at Muronging as he roared. Muronging! You've already destroyed 3 of my branches. Do you really think that there's no one in my sect? Oh. Muronging stood there with a calm expression on her face. I'm sorry, apart from Li Wei, I really don't care about the people of your cult. Wow! How arrogant of you! I'm Yang Wuji, the Hall Master of the Divine Creek sect. People call me the Spear Dragon. I'm going to kill you today with this bright silver iron dragon spear. Spear Dragon? I think you're just a worm. Muronging smiled with a trace of disdain in her eyes. You're courting death. Yang Wuji was enraged. He picked up the iron dragon spear and leaped forward, thrusting the spear towards Muronging's cheek. The bright silver iron dragon spear brought with it a silver lightning bolt, as if it was really a dragon that came out of the clouds, descending from the sky and pouncing towards her. Chapter 637. Seeing this move, the surrounding guards were all excited. Their hall master was indeed reliable. With this move, that Muronging would definitely be injured even if she didn't die. Muronging was still very calm. She just stretched out her right hand and gently opened it towards the silver spear. Pink cherry blossom petals immediately flew out. Behind Muronging, there seemed to be rows of cherry blossom trees that fell countless pink petals. A gust of wind blew and swept these petals up. These petals hit Yang Wuji's body, tearing a large wound on his body. Moreover, this powerful impact directly sent Yang Wuji's body flying, slamming heavily onto the wall behind him. Bam! Yang Wuji smashed a hole in his body, but this was not the end. Muronging completely opened her palm, turned her body sideways, and aimed her palm at Yang Wuji. More cherry blossoms hit Yang Wuji's body, like pink seawater. In the blink of an eye, Yang Wuji was completely engulfed. Boom! With a loud sound, the wall was pierced through. All the flesh and blood on Yang Wuji's body was also torn clean by the sword chi, leaving only a skeleton. Along with the dismembered corpse, it fell outside the wall and smashed into pieces. That bright silver spear also became scrap metal, fell to the side, and lost its luster along with its master. The remaining devil sect disciples were all frightened. The strength that Muronging displayed was too strong. Hall Master Yang Wuji, who was like a god of war in their hearts, was beaten like a dog in one move. Don't leave a single devil sect disciple alive. Muronging stood in the middle of the hall, incomparably domineering. The gold and silver swordsmen had already killed their way into the hall. Their gold and silver swords were like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, quickly harvesting the lives of those devil sect disciples. Towards these devil sect disciples, Muronging did not show any mercy and killed without mercy. Soon, there was not a single living person here. Muronging glanced at the corpses lying in the pool of blood, still so calm. Let's go to the next devil sect branch. Muronging only had a few pieces of information about the evil cult's branches in her hands. She had been reluctant to use them in the past and wanted to keep them for a long time to catch a big fish. But this time, for the sake of Li Fan, she swept through these branches one by one. While Muronging was wiping out the devil cult's branches, Li Fan and Lu Zhu had successfully infiltrated Laughing Sword Breeze and arrived at the banquet hall. The banquet hall was very simple. There were only a dozen large round tables with simple dishes placed on them. Many men and women in black robes were gathered in the hall, eating dinner together. As the Alliance Master, Luo Shuowu naturally wouldn't eat in such a place. The four heavenly kings were not there either. There was only a bald man sitting at the front table, gnawing on a beggar's chicken. When Li Fan and Lu Zhu came in, everyone glanced at them and then continued to eat their own food. It seemed that eating was the most important thing to them. Li Fan and Lu Zhu were arranged to sit at the lowest table. At the same table with them, there were 7 or 8 people wearing different clothes. It seemed that they were also new disciples. After Li Fan and Lu Zhu sat down, the others glanced at them. Their eyes were filled with curiosity, vigilance, and even disgust. Laughing Sword Breeze was different from the other alliances. For example, whistling West Wind on horseback, they generally accepted new people. Thus, they had a large number of people and were known as the #1 alliance among the 4 major alliances. On the other hand, Laughing Sword was the exact opposite. He had always walked the path of an elite. Although he would always recruit new members through an audition, the final passing rate was very low. Usually, only 2 or 3 people would be able to stay and become the elites of the elites. Originally, there would be more people coming this time. But because the devil cult wanted to go up the mountain, Li Fan and Lu Zhu were the last batch of people to pass the preliminary. Their arrival undoubtedly increased the competitiveness of this round. Although everyone seemed to be eating, there were still a few people secretly observing Li Fan and Lu Zhu. It seemed that they wanted to find out the background of Li Fan and Lu Zhu. They only ate ordinary steamed buns and beef. To a martial artist, these two were the most basic food. Lu Zhu felt that the atmosphere was a little awkward. He suddenly put down the steamed bun in his hand and said loudly, "Greetings, senior brothers and sisters. I am Tang Sec's Lu Zhu. This is my good friend, Gossip Lier." Gossip Lier. Li Fan muttered in his heart. Why did this name sound so uncomfortable? Senior brothers and sisters, the 2 of us are new here. Please take care of us. Ah. Looks like you still know the rules. A one-eyed man broke the steamed bun in half and said arrogantly, "I am from Golden Eagle Castle. My strength is above you motley crew. This time, I will definitely be one of the places. As for the rest, you guys can slowly fight for it. However, if anyone dares to provoke me, I will break his leg and make him crawl out of Kunlun Mountain." The surrounding people did not dare to make a sound. It seemed that this one-eyed man was indeed not someone to be trifled with. He suddenly stared at Li Fan and berated him. "You bastard, why didn't you salute me?" Lu Zhu hurriedly explained on behalf of Li Fan, "I'm sorry, senior brother. This brother of mine is a mute and cannot speak." Mute? Even a mute has to salute me. In Jianghu, the strong and the weak are ordered. This is the rule. The one-eyed man said. His hand turned into a blur as he directly pulled out the saber from his waist. He twirled the saber in his hand a few times before finally pointing the saber at Li Fan. The steamed buns in the hands of the surrounding people were all cut into 4 pieces by his saber and fell onto the plate. This person's swift saber had already reached a certain level of power. But Li Fan did not hold back and suddenly made his move. Li Fan grabbed the one-eyed man's wrist with his left hand and slammed it on the table. His arm smashed into the table and the saber flew out of his hand and fell to the side. At the same time, Li Fan's right hand directly chopped the one-eyed man's cheek. Bang! The hardwood table was directly split in half by Li Fan. Everyone's food fell to the ground, but no one dared to make a sound. The one-eyed man was scared to the point of peeing. But when Li Fan reached out and pushed him, he obediently sat back down. His forehead was covered with cold sweat and he did not dare to fart. But Li Fan's right foot was lifted up. When the table was broken, he used it to grab his plate. Everyone's eyes fell on him again. Lu Zhu swallowed her saliva and said, "That. We need to change tables." Li Fan picked up his plate and continued to eat as if nothing had happened. Interesting. The bald man put down his drumstick and looked at Li Fan. This year's newcomer is a bit interesting. Hall master, hall master. A disciple suddenly rushed into the hall and stumbled all the way to the front of the bald man. Why are you panicking? What a scandal. The bald man frowned. That disciple's words almost made him lose his mind. Hall master. Tonight, the smoke signal in the front hall did not rise. Chapter 638. What? The bald hall leader immediately stood up, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. These demon bastards' movements are actually so fast. He clenched his fists, pulled out his sword and chopped down on the table. Brothers, prepare for battle. With the hall leader's order, all the disciples in the hall stood up, took out their weapons and rushed out of the hall to the streets outside. On the streets, even more disciples of the sword sect started to move. These disciples of the sword sect all came from various sects, but they were all well-trained and uniformly ran towards the gate. There was already a white-faced man standing on top of the city wall. He wore a purple robe with arrow sleeves and had a sword hanging from his waist. His left hand pointed downwards while his right hand rested on the hilt of his sword. His voice was like a bell, clearly entering everyone's ears. Swordsman team, immediately go up the city wall and prepare sword chi to attack from afar. Swordsman team, hide on both sides of the city gate and wait for a surprise attack. Pugilist team, prepare to open the gate and face the enemy. The sword sect was divided into 3 groups, swordsman, and pugilist. Swordsman was a martial artist who was good with swords, swordsman was an expert with blades, and pugilist was an expert with fists and had learned a certain amount of hard qigong. They were responsible for charging at the front. Then the one commanding is the Night Rain building. Lu Zhu pointed and then said to Li Fan, he is quite calm and has a good command. Why is this like commanding a group battle in an online game? Li Fan felt that it was a bit childish, but Lu Zhu said, this is the tactic that the Night Rain building uses. It is the simplest method, but it has the greatest effect. In the world's 4 alliances, each alliance has a battlefield commander. Lu Zhu's explanation was easy to understand. This Night Rain building seems to be the new commander of the sword sect. Understood. Li Fan more or less understood this concept. After all, there was a high chance that there would be a war between the 4 alliances and there would be a conflict with the demon sect. If these alliances were to fight, the scale would not be small. Without a suitable commander, it was indeed not suitable. Although they had not passed the final test, Li Fan and the rest also ran out, went up to the top of the city wall, and looked down at the devil cult disciples. The number of people in the evil faction was indeed huge. Below the city walls, there were no less than 300 to 400 people. Although it was a mix of good and bad people, they definitely had the advantage in numbers. In this world, all the martial artists who liked to do evil had all joined the camp of solipsism. With Li Wei as their backer, they would naturally be more presumptuous. Where's your sword-leaning white queen? Let her come out and show her face. Below the city wall, a white-haired man walked out from the devil cult's camp. He looked at the people on the city wall and licked his lips. If it's only you guys, I won't be happy. The white-haired man's smile carried a hint of ridicule, causing the swordsman to feel extremely unhappy. That Baldy was a hall master of leaning sword, moreover, he was the chief hall master, and his status was not low. He immediately pulled out his treasured sword and pointed it at the white-haired man below as he roared loudly. TSK. Bald eagle, you madman. Full of big talk. Today, I'll definitely take your head with this treasured sword of mine. Li Fan's eyes sharpened as he thought, this person is actually the bald eagle. He glanced at Lu Zhu, who nodded too. Ha ha ha, isn't this Wang Chen? The bald eagle was not annoyed and looked at the burly bald man named Wang Chen with a smile. You used to be a nobody in solipsism. Why have you become the chief hall master of Leaning Sword in the blink of an eye? Even a nobody like you can become the chief hall master. It seems that Leaning Sword isn't that great after all. Damn it, fuck. Wang Chen was infuriated and was about to jump down to fight with the bald eagle, but he was stopped by Night Rain Pavilion. Although Night Rain Pavilion spoke gently, there was a force that could not be rejected. Every word he said was clearly heard by everyone. Those who come are guests. Friends, why don't you come in and take a seat first? Otherwise, if word gets out that you all die outside, I'm afraid outsiders will say that Leaning Sword doesn't treat its guests well. The bald eagle didn't seem to care at all, even though he threw a few words at him with a spear. No, I'm a very casual person. I don't like people being polite to me. The bald eagle smiled and stretched out his hands. True Qi gathered in his palms. Why don't you come down and we can have a good chat? With that, he threw 2 heads on the ground. It was Qing Feng and Mingyue. I chatted with the 2 of them for a while just now and we had a good chat. In an instant, the anger of all the disciples of Leaning Sword immediately soared. Qing Feng and Mingyue were the 2 door gods of Leaning Sword. They were very strong and had a very easygoing personality. At this moment, the 2 of them only had their heads left. They were thrown on the ground and one of them was even stepped on by the bald eagle. However, I didn't have enough fun chatting with them. I hope I can chat with you guys a little more happily. Bald eagle. You're courting death. Wang Chen could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. At this moment, he wished that he could cut this bald eagle in half with his saber. Night Rain Pavilion could not stop him. He had already jumped down. A height of more than 20 meters was nothing to an expert. Wang Chen held his treasured saber and landed on the bald eagle's head in the blink of an eye. He slashed at the bald eagle's head. This saber strike was filled with terrifying energy, as if Pangu had split the heavens and earth apart. However, the bald eagle sneered. He leaned to the side and struck Wang Chen's saber with his claw. With a clang, Wang Chen's saber was knocked askew. At the same time, there were 4 finger marks on the blade. It could be seen how terrifying the bald eagle's finger technique was. Wang Chen, you little shrimp, you're still too far away. The bald eagle laughed. Taking advantage of Wang Chen's unguarded state, he grabbed Wang Chen's chest and pierced his 5 fingers directly into Wang Chen's heart. This Wang Chen's heart was about to be dug out. The bald eagle had a smug smile on his face. He seemed to have foreseen Wang Chen's death. However, at that moment, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. The bald eagle seemed to have sensed something and looked back in surprise. But before he could turn his head, that person's palm was already on his back. Bear King Seal. Puff! A bloody hole appeared in the bald eagle's lower abdomen. He looked at his lower abdomen in shock. He did not even know what had happened. This palm strike is for Tang, and, as Li Fan spoke, he took a step forward and punched the bald eagle's chin. Bang! The bald eagle's head was smashed into minced meat. Only a headless corpse was left, falling into the snow. This punch is for Qing Feng and Mingyu. Li Fan added coldly. Chapter 639. Li Fan killed the bald eagle in 2 moves. This move shocked everyone present. Who is down there? Night Rain Tower could not help but ask. Seems like they are here to recruit new members, one of Yi Jian's men answered. Recruit new members? Night Rain Tower raised his eyebrows and pointed, the enemy's general is dead. Now is the time to follow up. Assassin team, go. Under his command, the city gate opened, and the hundreds of saber men who were lying in ambush behind the gate immediately rushed out. Like a black torrent, they surged into the enemy camp in an instant, killing the devil cult disciples until they threw away their helmets and armor, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. In less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, the demonic cult disciples were defeated and fled. Yi Jian's men were excited when the demonic cult disciples were killed. They shouted and celebrated their victory. "All right, everyone clean up the battlefield." 10 minutes later, everyone retreat to the city wall. Night Rain Tower ordered everyone, "This is just the enemy's vanguard. Their main force will arrive at any time." Night Rain Tower had already predicted the enemy's hostility. Everyone firmly believed his words. Under his order, they quickly cleaned up the battlefield and retreated to the city wall. This time, the enemy has suffered a loss. They will definitely not let this go. Night Rain Tower ordered the guards, "Guard the city gate well. Do not let anyone pass." He then walked to Wang Chen's side. "This brother is already lying on a stretcher. Don't be so impulsive in the future. Rest well." "So, sorry." Wang Chen's face was full of shame. Obviously, he felt that he was too impulsive this time. After taking care of the surrounding people, Night Rain Tower and Li Fan met in the meeting hall. Night Rain Tower walked in and cupped his hands towards Li Fan. "Yi Jian's leader, Night Rain Tower, greets Chief Escort Li, huh?" Li Fan was a little surprised. "You recognize me?" He has already changed his bones. Logically, no one should be able to recognize him. Just now, Chief Escort Li used Ursa Major Seal. I saw it clearly. Therefore, I made a presumptuous guess. If I guessed wrongly, please forgive me. Damn, I've met another intelligent player. Li Fan was most afraid of this kind of people. Night Rain Building, Dong Yi, Lu Zhu, and the like. They were too good at scheming, and it was impossible for him to guard against them. Li Fan was better at fighting, but he was not as good at brainstorming as these people. A person must face up to his own strengths and weaknesses and not think too highly of himself. Actually, it's not that I'm very smart. It's just that I've studied Chief Escort Li's martial arts. Night Rain Tower seemed to have guessed Li Fan's thoughts. He smiled and explained, "Chief Bodyguard Li has used this Bear King seal many times. It shouldn't be hard for others to recognize it." That's true. Li Fan felt that what he said was somewhat reasonable, but Lu Zhu, who was standing at the side, did not say a word, as if she was thinking about something. Li Fan was also muttering in his heart. This guy was a member of the devil cult, and he had already followed him into the Leaning Sword Laughing Breeze. Now that the vanguard of the devil cult had been beaten back, what would this guy do next? Lu Zhu's thoughts were the most difficult to guess, just like a woman's. "Chief Escort Li, I'm afraid you didn't come to my Leaning Sword headquarters to sightsee, right?" Night Rain Tower looked at Li Fan with a smile. "As for recruiting new members, I can't believe it. I was invited by Tangan to help." Li Fan decided to be honest. "Tangan?" Night Rain Tower muttered, "He's the new chief instructor I recruited this time, but I don't know where he is now. I'm afraid he won't be coming back." Li Fan's expression was gloomy. He died in the hands of the bald eagle. The bald eagle killed many people. Now that he was killed by Chief Escort Li, it can be considered as eliminating a scourge for the world. Night Rain Tower's body trembled slightly. Although he said it casually, the anger between his brows could not be concealed. Leaning Sword didn't have many people, but every one of them was an elite, and every one of them was a brother. Leaning Sword only has 300 people in total. "I'm afraid we'll lose a lot of brothers in this battle." Night Rain Tower felt his heart ache, but at this moment, a voice came from the side. "Leaning Sword has many experts, and our morale is high. How can we be afraid of a motley crew?" Li Fan turned around and saw a beautiful woman in green walking in with small steps. The woman's face was cold, as if someone owed her millions. Although she was beautiful, the fierce aura between her brows was too heavy, and she was destined to have no luck with men. "Humph, it's her." Lu Zhu transmitted his voice to Li Fan, "Beast immortal of the 4 heavenly kings, Jean Cumo. This woman looks as beautiful as a flower, but her methods are extremely vicious. She's killed many of my brothers, and she's no better than the bald eagle. Lu Zhu's voice was obviously filled with hatred. It seemed like he didn't have a good impression of Jean Cumo. Leaning Sword doesn't need outsiders' help. Jean Cumo looked at Li Fan coldly. You can scram now. Li Fan was very embarrassed, but Lu Zhu took a step forward and said, Beast Immortal, don't get it wrong. It's not us who wanted to come, it's your Tang and who invited us. We don't want it even if you owe us 100,000 yuan, but you still use this kind of attitude to talk to us. Leaning Sword is really rude and unreasonable. How is it different from the Devil's Sect? You can't pretend that you didn't hear that. Jean Cumo said, and the true qi in her body immediately revolved. Her body slightly changed into the shape of a fierce tiger, and her hands were placed in front of her like tiger claws, as if she would pounce at any time. As expected of a beast immortal, her Xingyi martial arts is really good. Li Fan couldn't help but think, if he fought her with the Black Tiger Emperor, what would the outcome be? Thinking of this, Li Fan couldn't help but feel itchy. Cumo, you're still messing around at this time. Night Rain Tower berated, causing Jean Cumo's face to turn slightly red, snorted, and turned her head away. Li Fan and Lu Zhu looked at each other. This insufferably arrogant Jean Cumo seems to have some special feelings for Night Rain Tower. I'm sorry, although Cumo's temper is not good, she is not a bad person. If she has offended the two of you in any way, I apologize on her behalf. Night Rain Tower cupped her hands towards Li Fan and Lu Zhu, but Li Fan waved his hand, indicating that it's fine. To be honest, although my Leaning Sword has many elites, we are a group of dragons without a leader. Night Rain Tower's words made Li Fan and Lu Zhu start to guess. Leaning Sword is a group of dragons without a leader. What does this mean? A few days ago, our alliance leader Luo Xuewu, in order to practice the 9-heaven mystical ice technique, accidentally went berserk and sealed herself in ice. Because of this, Zhang Xiaotian went out to find a famous doctor, wanting to undo the ice seal on alliance leader Luo. And Guo Mingming guarded the ice cave, protecting the alliance leader day and night. Chapter 640. Night Rain Tower's words were shocking. 9 heavens mystic ice. Isn't this the 5th peerless martial art in the Divine Skill Manual? Lu Zhu could not help but exclaim in shock. Yes. Night Rain Tower nodded. It's my fault. This technique is actually a secret art that I obtained by chance. Because I'm a man, I'm not suitable to cultivate this martial art, so I gave it to the alliance leader. I didn't expect her to go berserk. I'm really ashamed. Night Rain Tower's expression was filled with guilt. Jean Cumo nudged him lightly. It's not your fault, it's the alliance leader who insisted on cultivating it. You've already stopped her. Sigh. It's a pity that I couldn't stop the alliance leader. Night Rain Tower seemed to have a strong sense of responsibility as he sighed. Because of this, if the demonic cult attacks now, with only the two of us, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to stop them. You just love to worry about groundless things. Jean Cumo said, they're just some demonic cult thieves, how can they shake the prestige of my sword? It's good that you have such an imposing manner. Night Rain Tower nodded, but I'm the commander, so I have to think of every possible situation. Cumo, please understand, it's my duty. I hate you, always thinking so much. Jean Cumo turned his head and crossed his arms, as if he did not want to talk to Night Rain Tower. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. Night Rain Tower cupped his hands at Li Fan. If the two of you are willing to help me resist the demonic cult's invasion, Yi Jian will be very grateful. About the 100,000 yuan, of course it's counted, I'll give it to you with both hands. Ha ha ha, forget it, just transfer it to my Alipay. Li Fan laughed, it's a technological society, we martial artists have to keep up with the times. Head escort Li is right. Night Rain Tower nodded, but Jean Cumo curled his lips and sneered. Profiteer. Kumeo. Night Rain Tower frowned, "You're too rude." "Humph. It's none of your business." Tsukumo flicked his sleeves, turned around, and left the meeting hall. "My apologies. I've made a fool of myself," Night Rain Tower smiled bitterly. "It's all my fault. I've spoiled her too much." Li Fan heard the other meaning behind it, but he didn't say it out loud. "It doesn't matter. I am indeed a profiteer. However, I work for money. As long as the money is in place, I promise I will get it done for you." Li Fan chuckled and did not take it to heart. It seemed that money was the most important thing to him. "All right, Chief Escort Li, I'll be troubling you to guard the Leaning Sword Gate with me." Night Rain stretched out his hand and shook hands with Li Fan, signing the contract. The two of them temporarily formed an offensive and defensive alliance. Li Fan's mission was to protect Yi's sword and Luo Xuewu's safety. "According to my spies, there are about 1,000 people from the devil cult here." Night Rain Tower suddenly revealed his intel. "And the leader is Song Fuya." "Fuck, more than 1,000 people," Li Fan wanted to roll his eyes. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Chief Escort Li didn't ask about it earlier. Night Rain Tower chuckled. Just now, Chief Escort Li only asked about the money and then agreed. Fuck, Li Fan wanted to curse. He was fucking tricked again. How could these people be so calculative? Fuck. Chief Escort Li, since the people from the devil cult haven't arrived yet, why don't you come with me to see the alliance leader? Night Rain Tower suddenly stood up and patted the dust on his body. Let's go. Alright. Li Fan first glanced at Lu Zhu. He was thinking if he should make her stay. However, Lu Zhu followed him closely, not leaving him by even an inch. Don't play any tricks. Li Fan transmitted his voice to Lu Zhu. I'm in a bad mood right now. Don't make me vent my anger on you. I'm actually just here to join in the fun. I really have no purpose. Lu Zhu rolled his eyes. Why are you always doubting me? Nonsense. Who asked you to be a member of the devil cult? There are also good people in solipsism. Lu Zhu directly asked, could it be that there are no bad people among these righteous sects? Li Fan was stunned by the question. Fuck. This Lu Zhu has a sharp tongue. I really can't win against him in an argument. Forget it. Follow me properly and don't cause any trouble. Li Fan couldn't be bothered to argue with him. This guy cheated his sword and secret manual and ran away. He still has the nerve to say that he is a good person. The two of them followed Night Rain Tower. They walked along the bluestone path to the heaven stairway at the back and began to climb up the mountain. The three of them had martial arts. Using Qinggong, they quickly arrived at Kunlun Mountain's Sky Ascension Peak. This Sky Ascension Peak was over 6,000 meters tall. It was as if it was connected to the sky. The air here was very thin and the pressure was very low. If not for Li Fan and the rest having true qi to protect their bodies, they would probably suffer from altitude sickness. Their surroundings were covered with pure white snow that covered the entire mountain. Li Fan felt that he had returned to the winter of a city. A snowstorm came and after a night, the city was covered in white. On this mountain peak, the wind blew and blew the snowflakes onto Li Fan and the rest. A cave appeared in front of Li Fan. It was as if there was a line in the sky, or as if a woman was lying there with her legs spread apart. Although this analogy was not appropriate, it was indeed suitable for this place. Alliance leader is inside. Night Rain Tower pointed, she is in a very deep place. We need to go deeper. When Li Fan heard this, he felt like cursing. However, he held it in. Along the way, they entered the cave. The wind and snow were finally far away from them. The cave was very deep, but there was candlelight that illuminated the scenery in the cave. When Li Fan and the rest walked in and looked into the depths, they felt that they couldn't see the bottom. This was originally the place where Alliance leader went into seclusion. Night Rain Tower said, it was originally a very secluded place, but now it has become Alliance leader's shelter. Is this 9 heaven mystic ice really that powerful? Li Fan couldn't help but ask. Yes, only women can practice it. However, it is very domineering. Night Rain Tower explained, in this world, only women with pure body can practice it without any worries. Furthermore, it complements with martial arts and can be mastered quickly. Fuck, pure body. Doesn't that mean that Murong loves it? However, Alliance leader doesn't have pure body. That's why she went berserk, and became like this, Night Rain Tower said and pointed to the front. A huge underground lake appeared in front of them. In the middle of the lake, there was an ice sculpture of a woman. Luo Shuewu was sealed in ice, waiting for the person who could save her to appear. Audacious! How dare you trespass the forbidden area? Die! Suddenly, there was a roar in their ears. Chapter 641. Li Fan and the rest turned their heads at the same time and saw a 2-meter-tall giant suddenly falling from the sky. With a bang, he landed in front of them, causing the cave to shake. Li Fan was a little surprised. My goodness, this person is as strong as a small iron tower. His size is shocking. When he landed in front of Li Fan, his body almost blocked Li Fan's line of sight. Even the light behind him was blocked. A dark feeling rose in one's heart. After this small iron tower landed, without saying a word, he immediately stretched out his hand and grabbed towards Li Fan. Li Fan did not stand on ceremony. He raised his hand to meet his palm, and the two of them slid back a meter at the same time. Their true chi was still fluctuating. The surrounding stones on the walls fell down and fell to the ground, causing dust to rise. Mingming, don't be impulsive. Night Rain Tower stretched out his hand and stopped this iron tower like big man. So this person is the Iron Tower King, Guo Mingming. Although he is tall and strong, there is a kind of silly feeling between his brows. These two are my invited guests. Oh, Guo Mingming was still angry earlier, but now his brows relaxed. He giggled and stood to the side. He stretched out his hand and dug out his nose and even stuffed it into his mouth. Do you want to eat? Guo Mingming politely asked Night Rain Tower. I can't, hee hee. Then I'll eat alone, Guo Mingming continued to eat with relish. Lu Zhu almost vomited. This. Although his martial arts is not bad, his brain was damaged when he was young. Night Rain Tower explained to Li Fan, I hope Chief Escort Li will not take offense. No, no. Although his brain is not good, he is loyal to his master. This is rare. Li Fan praised twice. Then he noticed that Guo Mingming was eating at the side and did not want to continue. Let's come and see our alliance leader. Night Rain Tower led Li Fan and the others towards the frozen area. Luo Shuewu, the commander of Sword Reliance, the White Queen, was currently sealed in the ice. Her expression was still vivid and lifelike, as if she was just sleeping. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. Guilt was written all over Night Rain Tower's face. He wanted nothing more than to smash his head against the ice sculpture. Alliance Master Luo is only sealed in ice. There must be a way to save her. As Li Fan spoke, he almost subconsciously put his hand on Luo Shuewu's lower abdomen. Night Rain Tower did not stop him. He believed that Li Fan would not act recklessly. Li Fan felt the vitality in his dantian. Although Luo Shuewu was frozen in the cave, she was very healthy and tenacious. She seemed to be waiting for Yi Jian's brothers and sisters to save her from this hopeless situation. She is very healthy and very tenacious. Li Fan said, don't worry, Alliance Master Luo will leave this place sooner or later and return to the Leaning Sword headquarters. Thank you for your auspicious words. Night Rain Tower himself did not dare to say such a thing. After all, the 9 Heaven mystical ice was too mysterious and Night Rain Tower did not understand it very well. He looked at the ice sculpture with a slightly sorrowful expression. Master, Guomingming stood at the side and looked at Luo Shuowu's ice sculpture. When are you coming out? I'll treat you, something delicious, but no matter how much they looked forward to it, Luo Shuowu would not be able to come out in a short period of time. Commander. Lord Commander, this is bad. Suddenly, someone from Leaning Sword reported from outside, the demonic cult's army has already arrived at our city gate. Good. Night Rain Tower put away the sorrowful expression on his face, turned around and said loudly, since the guests are here, then let's go and meet them. Let's go and let the demonic cult's friends experience our Leaning Sword's hospitality. Night Rain Tower walked out with large strides. Li Fan and Lu Zhu looked at each other and followed behind Night Rain Tower. Guomingming still stayed in the cave. His duty was to protect Luo Shuowu's safety. The army was pressing down. When Li Fan rushed to the city wall, he immediately had this feeling. Just like what Night Rain Tower said, the demonic cult indeed had more than 1,000 people. Each of them looked ferocious as if they wanted to skin Leaning Sword alive. No, it was not just 1,000 people. There were at least 2,000 to 3,000 martial fighters wearing black and red armor. They were like a black and red torrent of death that covered the snow. It seems that my information was wrong. Night Rain Tower frowned. Looking at these people in front of him, he felt a little guilty. The mistake in the information was not a small matter. In front of this torrent of death stood a familiar woman. That was none other than Li Fan's old enemy, Song Fuya. She was wearing a red robe today, which made her look a bit more seductive. Song Fuya put her hands on her waist, raised her head and looked up. Yo, not bad. You actually killed the bald eagle. It seems that I really underestimated you. You're just a bunch of rascals. Do you really think that you're so powerful? Song Fuya smiled. I have already set up an invisible and colorless heartless poison. It won't be long before you all become a pile of mud. Then I'm sorry. I've already been prepared for this. Night Rain Tower smiled. Open the gate. As soon as he gave the order, one gate after another was opened on the city wall. These gates were only as wide as a palm, but they brought a strong wind that gushed out from the gates. In the blink of an eye, the poisonous fog that Song Fuya added was blown away by the surging wind. Song Fuya frowned. In this way, her poison attack was basically ineffective. I'm sorry, Protector Song. You're a strategic weapon, so I have to make some preparations for you. Night Rain Tower's smile was definitely infuriating. Sure enough, Song Fuya had already begun to tremble slightly. Obviously, she was choking with anger. Night Rain Tower, don't think that you're somebody. In my, Song Fuya's eyes, you're just a guy who likes to play petty tricks. Yes, it's this kind of guy who blocked you and your people outside the high wall. Night Rain Tower said indifferently, if you're powerful, then come in and take a look. Night Rain Tower, you think that you're very capable, right? Song Fuya suddenly sneered and waved her hand. Followers of only me, listen to my command. Attack! More than 100 disciples of the devil cult immediately stepped forward. With a wave of their hands, they threw out hooks that hooked onto the city wall. Swordsmen, attack! Night Rain Tower waved his hand. All the swordsmen on the city wall pulled out their swords and threw out large and small sword chi to cut those ropes. Many devil faction disciples' ropes were cut and they fell down from the sky. But even more devil faction disciples came forward and threw out hooks that hooked onto the wall. Chapter 642. It was a terrifying battle. The people from the devil cult were not afraid of death. They spread up like a swarm of insects. Some of them didn't even use their hooks. Instead, they just used their hands and feet to climb up the wall, using the frost on the high wall. When they got closer, Li Fan noticed that their bodies were stiff and their faces were pale. They were not normal people at all. Corpses. Li Fan suddenly realized that these were corpses. It was the corpse stitching technique. No wonder Song Fuya was so fearless. She was using the corpses as cannon fodder. These corpses were made with the corpse stitching technique. They had copper heads and iron bones, and were impenetrable. Hidden Weapons Team. Night Rain Tower also noticed this. He mobilized Sword Reliance's secret team. The 12 concealed weapon experts jumped onto the city gate tower, and with a flick of their hands, they threw out a handful of flying darts, and went straight down. The darts hit the faces of the corpses. Even if they could injure them, they could not move their bodies. More corpses climbed up and waved their claws, ready to attack. Assassin Team. Night Rain Tower did not panic. He commanded the Sabermen to charge forward. Each Saberman chopped off the heads of the corpses that crawled up to them. No matter how powerful they were, they could only fall down from the wall after their heads were cut off. Who is controlling these corpses? Jin Kyumo was also standing on the wall. She tore off a corpse's head with her tiger claw and threw it to the side. Black Face Ghost. Night Rain Tower saw a man in a black robe. He was one of the devil cult's 8 great guardian deities. He was an expert in the corpse stitching technique. He was more proficient in the corpse stitching technique than Lu Zhu. Lu Zhu could only control a dozen corpses at once, but he could control thousands at once. There was a huge difference between proficient and slightly proficient. Li Fan also rolled his eyes at Lu Zhu, meaning to say, "Look at her." Lu Zhu was not convinced. But she could not use her corpse stitching technique in this place. She could only wave her black jade fan and throw the corpses down the wall. "I'll go kill him." Jin Kyumo wanted to jump down but was pulled back by Night Rain Tower. "We lack manpower. You can't go down." You're just worried that something will happen to me." Jin Hisao snorted and looked at Night Rain Tower with dissatisfaction. "I'm not a kid. Just do your job. Once the city walls are breached, our Ijian will have to hand over to someone else." Night Rain reminded Jin Hisashi, "Don't be rash. Brother Yi is right. You stay here and leave the guy below to me." As Li Fan spoke, he jumped down from the high wall. At the same time, a man in golden armor also jumped in from outside, and the two of them brushed past each other in the air. The two of them looked at each other. Li Fan did not make a move because he had the E-Sword logo on his shoulder. The head of the 4 heavenly kings of the Sword Reliance sect, Dragon Crossing River Zhan Xiaotian. He brushed past Li Fan's shoulder and jumped onto the city wall. "I got the Blood Lotus." Zhan Xiaotian's voice was deep and domineering, "The Alliance Master is saved." The city wall was filled with cheers, and Li Fan had already jumped down and landed on the ground. "Who are you?" Because Li Fan was still in disguise, Song Fuya was unable to see through his identity. Li Fan, on the other hand, chuckled and jumped toward the black-faced ghost. As if to protect the black-faced ghost, more than 100 ghouls blocked in front of Li Fan. Behind Li Fan, the great war god popped out. Song Fuya was shocked and subconsciously took 2 steps back. She seemed to be frightened by the great war god's might. Li Fan crossed his arms, and the great war god raised his palm and pushed out. Extreme Bear King Seal. The huge palm swept forward. Even if the 100 ghouls had bronze heads and iron bones, under the pressure of the great war god's palm, their upper bodies were all shattered, leaving only their lower bodies standing on the ground. 1 against 100. To Li Fan, this was just a matter of raising his hand. The great war god killed more than 100 people who were already dead. Song Fuya's body was trembling slightly, and the black-faced ghost who was using the corpse stitching technique also raised his head, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. "Hi!" Li Fan greeted the black-faced ghost. In an instant, the thousands of ghouls around him gave up climbing the wall and all pounced towards Li Fan. From all directions, it was as if the stopper of a swimming pool was pulled out. All the water was rushing towards Li Fan. However, Li Fan did not have the slightest fear. He threw out Murong Ying's good person card. Bam! A golden bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Murong Ying, who was wearing the flying lion battle armor, slowly stood up with an insufferably imposing manner. Li Fan did not even look at the ghouls and walked towards the black-faced ghost. A few ghouls pounced in front of Li Fan, but Murong Ying used the shield in her hand to block them and sent them flying. She also carried the flying lion sword, and from time to time, she chopped off the ghouls' heads. Most of the ghouls died under her sword. No matter how fast the ghouls ran, or how fiercely they pounced, they were not a match for Murong Ying. At first glance, Murong Ying looked like she was just chopping melons and vegetables. She raised her sword, and the heads fell to the ground. Li Fan seemed to trust Murong Ying very much. Under the siege of the ghouls, he walked towards the black-faced ghost step by step. Night Rain and the others were dumbfounded. This Murong Ying. Where did she come from? But looking at her, she did not seem to be the Alliance Master Murong. Magic? Superpower? Night Rain quickly came to a conclusion in his mind. It must be the superpower of a mutant. Could it be that this Li Fan was also a mutant? But no matter what, he was too domineering and walked to the side of the black-faced ghost. The golden-armored Murong Ying stood beside him, and the golden sword in her hand cut another ghoul in half. She was like an undefeatable god of war. No matter how many ghouls there were, they could not break through her defense circle. Not a single ghoul could enter within a 1-meter radius. When Li Fan walked to the side of the black-faced ghost, he was so scared that he fell to the ground on his butt. He looked left and right as if he wanted to escape. But Li Fan stretched out his hand and used the dragon toad's absorption of water. He immediately pulled the black-faced ghost over and grabbed his head with his 5 fingers. Tiger Claw. Li Fan pierced through the top of the black-faced ghost's skull. He did not even have the time to scream before he lost his life. There were already 500 to 600 ghouls that died under Murong Ying's sword. After Li Fan killed the black-faced ghost, another 1,000 or so ghouls fell to the ground. The remaining 1,000 or so ghouls were all real living people, but they did not dare to attack Li Fan. This little overlord was simply too strong. Li Fan, how dare you? Song Fuya's body trembled slightly. The ones who are bold are you guys. Another cold voice came from the city wall. Chapter 643. Luo Xuewu, the commander of Sword Reliance, had already woken up from the ice. Wearing a white jade robe, she stood on top of the city wall and looked down at the group of demons with eyes like cold stars. To all the disciples of Sword Reliance, Luo Xuewu was their backbone. When the White Queen once again stood on the high wall, all the disciples of Sword Reliance cheered. Then, they were in high spirits and full of fighting spirit. Li Fan felt that this White Queen was the soul of Sword Reliance. Beside Luo Xuewu were the 4 heavenly kings, who were leaning on their swords, Zhan Xiaotian, who was clad in golden armor and looked extremely domineering, Night Rain Tower, the resourceful strategist, Jin Hisao, who was as beautiful as a flower and had the bearing of a myriad of beasts, and Air Guo Mingming, who was as immovable as a mountain while eating his fingers. Li Fan covered his forehead. What the hell was the last one? Song Fuya, your devil cult's fate has come to an end. Luo Xuewu stood on the high wall, holding a large white sword with both hands, and said to the people below, you dare to provoke me, you are all too stupid. You can't say that so early. Song Fuya laughed, the show has just begun. Just as he finished speaking, a man wearing the long robe of Incense Master leaning sword suddenly leaped down from the high wall. Golden Incense Master. Seeing this person jump down, Luo Xuewu was stunned for a moment. He is not Golden Incense Master. Night Rain Tower immediately reacted, he is the 1,000-face ghost of the 8 Great Vajra. Li Fan pointed with his finger, and Murong Ying had already jumped up high to meet the falling 1,000-face ghost. At the same time, she grabbed the golden flying lion sword, preparing to kill the 1,000-face ghost in the air. But at this time, Lu Zhu held the four-elephant sword in his hand and threw out the white tiger sword chi. Li Fan lowered his head to look. He did not know when his four-elephant sword chi had been swapped. He frowned. Muronging had already been hit by the white tiger sword chi, and her body tilted to one side. Everyone, I'm sorry. Lu Zhu stood at the edge of the high wall, cupped his hands towards Luo Xuewu and the others, and then jumped out. A kite appeared behind him, and his entire body was blown up by the night wind, flying towards the devil cult. A thief in the family is hard to guard against. Luo Xuewu frowned deeply. Only when all of them were here to fight did the thousand-faced ghost have the chance to transform into the appearance of an incense master and steal the 9 Buddha mantra from the sword reliance. Lu Zhu. Li Fan's roar came from the night sky. Brotherly. We will meet again soon. At that time, I will explain to you. Lu Zhu shouted to the people below, then rode the wind and left. Ha ha ha, all of you are too stupid in the end. Leaning on the sword and laughing at the cool breeze is just so. Song Fuya sneered. At the same time, she waved her hand and led the thousands of followers to retreat. In this battle, they had only lost thousands of corpses and one of the 8 guardian deities. But Laughing Sword Reliant Breeze had lost a copy of the 9 Buddha Sutra, as well as the dignity of their alliance. Very soon, rumors would spread throughout the Jianghu that they could not even keep a secret manual. This was the Alliance Conference, this was the martial world. The people of the devil cult came quickly and left quickly. Li Fan knew that Lu Zhu had schemed against him again. Even if he chased after them, he might not be able to get the 9 Buddha Sutra back. He was a little dejected. He had been played by a person several times in a row. His darts had actually been robbed. The first time. The first failure. Li Fan gritted his teeth. He wanted to grab Lu Zhu and beat him up. But for some reason, Li Fan always felt that Lu Zhu was not a bad person. But why did she serve the devil cult? There were many things that Li Fan felt that he could not figure out. Head escort Li, come in and have a chat. Night Rain Tower ordered the guards to open the city gate. Looking at the slowly opening city gate, he had mixed feelings. Head escort Li, please. Night Rain Tower was already standing in front of the city gate. He cupped his hands to welcome Li Fan. But Li Fan knew that everyone in the Sword Reliance was hostile to him. But it was not Li Fan's character to leave with his tail between his legs. He decided to put down the grudge in his heart and strode into the city that he had just left. The disciples of the Sword Reliance stood on both sides. Everyone looked at him quietly and did not say a word. The scene was a little awkward. It was definitely not very satisfactory. Li Fan could feel that many people were looking at him strangely. Some of them could not help but start pointing at him. Head escort Li, please. The Alliance Master is already waiting for you in the meeting hall. Night Rain Tower cupped his hands to Li Fan again. Li Fan said that he had to give the Sword Reliance an explanation for this matter. He strode forward and followed Night Rain Tower. He stepped on the bluestone floor and arrived at the meeting hall. Luo Xuewu, the woman who was sealed in ice earlier, was now sitting on the throne in the meeting hall alive and staring at him. Zhan Xiaotian wore a set of golden armor and stood on the left side of Luo Xuewu. Jin Jiuma wore a green robe and stared at him fiercely like a little chili pepper. Guo Mingming stood on the right side of Luo Xuewu. He did not wear any armor, but his defense was shockingly strong. At this moment, Guo Mingming was playing with a little yellow chick. He kept fiddling with it and would occasionally put it in his mouth to take a bite. Head escort Li, this way please. Night Rain Tower knew how to conduct himself. He asked his subordinates to bring a chair for Li Fan and let Li Fan sit down. Then, someone came over to serve fragrant tea. Li Fan took a few sips and found that it was indeed good tea. No matter what, Li Fan was a guest after all. Moreover, he was a guest with status. You are Li Fan. Luo Xuewu sized up Li Fan for a long time and finally said this. Yes, I am. Li Fan also took a few more glances at Luo Xuewu. After all, she was one of the top beauties. Her pure and clean appearance attracted men's attention. Unfortunately, this woman was born an iceberg and was destined to have no affinity with men. Little Tian, go. Luo Xuewu instructed. Yes. Zhan Xiaotian, who was standing on the left side of Luo Xuewu, immediately leaped up and slapped towards Li Fan with his palm. Flying Dragon Palm. This was Zhan Xiaotian's martial arts. His palm seemed to carry a golden light as it directly imprinted on Li Fan's forehead. At that moment, Li Fan had an illusion. It was as if a golden dragon was charging towards him. However, Li Fan was not an ordinary person. He immediately channeled his true qi, sat on the chair, and exchanged a palm strike with Zhan Xiaotian. Bang! The chair under Li Fan was broken, and his legs were on the ground. Zhan Xiaotian's body slid back a meter and landed on the ground. After stabilizing his body, he raised his head and looked at Li Fan solemnly. Good, good, good. Satisfying. Li Fan frowned and stood up straight, looking at Luo Xuewu who was sitting on the throne. What, you're going to fight just because you don't agree with me? Luo Xuewu did not say anything, but Zhan Xiaotian took another step forward and used the flying dragon palm again, striking towards Li Fan. Chapter 644. This palm was imbued with Zhan Xiaotian's strength. With one palm, the wind and thunder rumbled. Li Fan laughed out loud. Ha! Good. So what if the Sword Reliance sect was his enemy? This 20-meter-high wall and 300 elites were not enough to stop him. Li Fan took a horse stance and directly struck out with his palm, once again meeting Zhan Xiaotian's flying dragon palm. Bam! A powerful force spread out from the point where their palms met. Boom! The ground beneath their feet began to collapse. Rubble flew up and floated to their feet. The force continued to spread out in all directions, attacking the surroundings. Both of their clothes were sent flying, and the force continued to spread outwards. Some of the weaker sword disciples had already been blown away. Guomingming took a step forward and stood in front of Luo Xuewu. His body was covered in energy, and the iron cloth technique was activated to the extreme. The palm wind from the two of them struck Guomingming's body, but Guomingming used his own body to block it. Good, good, good. This is too satisfying. Zhan Xiaotian's face was filled with excitement. It was probably very difficult for him to meet an opponent that could match him. His overall strength was the strongest in the Sword Reliance sect, and his combat quality was also the highest. After realizing that his palm energy could not do anything to Li Fan, Zhan Xiaotian did not continue to foolishly exchange palms. Instead, he took a step forward and arrived behind Li Fan. He turned around and slapped his palm towards Li Fan's back. Li Fan felt the hairs on his back stand on end. Without any hesitation, he used an iron bridge to fall backwards, dodging Zhan Xiaotian's flying dragon palm. At the same time, he struck out with both of his palms towards Zhan Xiaotian's chest as he fell backwards. Bam! Zhan Xiaotian was at a disadvantage. The armor on his lower abdomen was shattered. After that, he took 2 steps back and readjusted his innate qi to stabilize his body. Good, awesome. Zhan Xiaotian gave Li Fan a thumbs up, as expected of the little tyrant, you are indeed powerful. You're too kind. The title of Dragon Crossing the River isn't given for nothing. It's quite interesting. Li Fan and Zhan Xiaotian looked at each other and smiled, but then Zhan Xiaotian's expression became serious, but just this alone is not enough to pass my test. As he spoke, he leaped into the air once more and struck out with both palms. Flying Dragon Palm. In the first place, it was most powerful in the air. This time, the pressure brought by Zhan Xiaotian's palms was terrifying. Good timing. Li Fan roared, and the great war god suddenly rose from behind him. The great war god's palms met Zhan Xiaotian's palms. They clashed several times in a row. The shockwave once again surged outwards, creating a circle of cracks on the walls of the conference hall. The great war god's body trembled, and Zhang Xiaotian's body flew out. His body slammed heavily into the wall behind him and was embedded into it. It was obvious that he had suffered a heavy blow. Li Fan crossed his arms and looked at Zhang Xiaotian, who had been blasted into the wall. Your strength is not bad. Zhang Xiaotian pulled out his arm and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, but I only used 50% of my strength. Li Fan raised 3 fingers, 30%. Fuck, Zhang Xiaotian wanted to curse out loud. Wasn't this way too strong? Chief Escort Li's strength is probably above 5 dragons. Yi Yulu chuckled and said, however, Chief Escort Li's true chi is more condensed than ordinary people, so even if it's 5 dragons, he can fight against 6 to 7 dragons. And Zhang Xiaotian's strength is exactly 5 dragons. Therefore, compared to Chief Escort Li, he is still a level lower. You're too polite. Li Fan cupped his hands. This Yi Yulu's analytical ability was indeed quite strong. He was a little happy to see this, and even wanted to poach Yi Yulu to his side. But this should be a taboo in the pugilistic world, so he decided to forget about it. Although Luo Xuewu had many experts by her side, without Yi Yulu's help, they would not be able to display their full strength. Do you still want to fight? Li Fan crooked his hand at them. The 4 of you can fight together. The others were fine, but Jin Zhoumao's eyebrows immediately raised. She lowered her body slightly and entered the form of a fierce tiger. It seemed that in an instant, she would pounce on Li Fan and tear him to shreds. Alright, that's enough. Luo Xuewu suddenly raised her hand and stopped the others. Since you've passed the inspection, then let's get married today. With that, Luo Xuewu turned around and left the meeting hall, while Li Fan was still in a daze. Marriage? What does that mean? Zhang Xiaotian and Li Fan fought, but they had developed feelings for each other. He had already pulled himself out of the wall, patted the dust off his body, walked in front of Li Fan, and patted his shoulder. Brother, you have to treat the Alliance Master better in the future. Huh? Li Fan still did not understand. Yi Yulu also walked forward and cupped his hands at Li Fan. Chief Escort Li, we will be a family in the future, please take care of us. What family? I don't understand. Li Fan asked, can you speak human language? Oh, I was being rude, let me explain. Yi Yulu said with a smile. Our Alliance Master Luo once made a vow that anyone who wants to marry her man must first win the heart of Wulin's Alliance Master Murong. Now, this person has finally appeared, and it is time for our Alliance Master Luo to fulfill the promise. What? Isn't this too ridiculous? The person our Alliance Master Luo marries must be a hero. Yi Yulu said with a smile, Chief Escort can even defeat Zhang Xiaotian, whether it is strength or charm, you are qualified. Wait. At least you have to ask me first, right? For our Alliance Master Luo, the vow is irreversible. What the hell, I don't agree. Li Fan turned to leave, this is a complete farce. But after 2 steps, he suddenly felt his legs go weak. Sorry, Chief Escort. Yi Yulu kept his hands in his sleeves and winked at Li Fan, in the tea you drank just now, I put a little muscle softening powder. Chief Escort Li has deep internal strength, I didn't expect you to resolve it in 2 days. But for the next 2 days, Head Escort Li will have to endure the feeling of being powerless for a while. Li Fan sat on the chair, what is this muscle softening powder, how can it be so domineering? No poison. A little. Yi Yulu said very modestly, I just learned a little bit of everything, just the surface, please excuse me, Chief Escort Li. You win, Li Fan laughed bitterly, I actually fell for it again. Damn, seems like I forgot to look at the almanac when I left. Head Escort Li, sorry for the inconvenience. Head Escort Li, please take a break. Tomorrow is a good day, so the wedding will be held tomorrow. Chapter 645. Right now, Li Fan is sitting in a very elegant room, but his mood is not good. Right now, he is under house arrest. At the door, there are 2 sword guards guarding here, so he can't go anywhere. Moreover, he doesn't have the strength to escape. He feels like he hasn't eaten for a few days and can't even muster a bit of strength. This night rain building is a bit too overbearing. What the hell is this muscle softening powder? How could it be so effective? Li Fan sits cross-legged on the chair, feeling that he can't muster a bit of qi in his body. This situation was really too embarrassing. Just when Li Fan wants to curse, the closed window is suddenly pushed open, followed by a figure falling in and stepping on the table. Li Fan frowns. The person is none other than Lu Zhu. As Li Fan's hand touches the hero's sword, Lu Zhu smiles and sends a sound transmission to Li Fan. You've already been hit by muscle softening powder, but you still want to fight me? Li Fan can't send a sound transmission, so he can only frown and look at Lu Zhu. I'm here to help you, brotherly, Lu Zhu says. Maybe I did something a bit excessive, but believe me, that was not my intention. Li Fan looks at Lu Zhu, not saying anything. These 2 are the sword guard and the 9 Buddha Sutra that I took away. Although it's just a copy. This is what I can give you. Watching Lu Zhu put the 2 copies of the 9 Buddha Sutra into his pocket, Li Fan looked at him again. I actually hate you. Lu Zhu looks at Li Fan and sighs, but I don't want to be your enemy. Li Fan tilts his head. Lu Zhu says, you might think that I'm too pretentious. But I probably think that you're like my friend. My only friend. Li Fan's frown deepened. Lu Zhu stretches out his hand to Li Fan, come with me. Li Fan looked at the door. The 2 guards with swords were still talking. This brat is worthy of our alliance, Master Luo. Damn, he even defeated Zhang Xiaotian. I'm still a little unwilling. The 2 of them whispered to each other, but Li Fan still heard what they said. Li Fan did not hesitate. He stood up and held Lu Zhu's hand. This kid's hands were very white and tender. One look and you could tell that he was a young master from a wealthy family. He took good care of himself. Lu Zhu held on to Li Fan. Although he was not tall, he was able to carry Li Fan on his back. I'm leaving. Hold me tight. Li Fan felt a little embarrassed. After all, he was a man, and he had to be carried by another man. But now was not the time to think about this. He wrapped his arms around Lu Zhu's neck. Lu Zhu seemed to be silent for a moment. But soon, Lu Zhu reacted and jumped out of the window with Li Fan on his back. Although Lu Zhu's kung fu was not very good and she learned a lot of different things, her qigong was indeed quite good. Although she was not as good as the flying cat Yin Xiaoru, she still had her own style. Lu Zhu carried Li Fan on her back, stepped on her feet, and directly bounced 7 or 8 meters high, quickly landing on a nearby roof. Lu Zhu's body was as light as a cat's. Every time her feet landed on a roof, she would silently bend her knees and jump up again. She would jump very high and cross a very long distance before landing on another roof. Because the population of Smiling Sword Breeze was small, the distance between houses was very long. Under the cover of the night, Lu Zhu quickly moved toward the direction of the city wall. However, there was a man standing on the high wall, blocking their way. Night Rain Tower wore a purple wide-sleeved coat. His hands were hidden in his sleeves as he stood there with a smile on his face. You're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Lu Zhu landed and looked at Yi Ru who was standing there. Brother Yi, you seem to be able to predict everything. Although Li Fan did not have the strength to fight, it did not affect his ability to speak. No, it's not that I'm able to predict everything. It's just that I'm always on guard. Night Rain Tower smiled modestly. Before the wedding, I naturally do not wish for any side issues to arise. Sorry, if you're in the way, I can only kill you. Lu Zhu did not hold back. He directly pulled out his 4-elephant sword and threw out a white tiger sword chi. The white tiger sword chi started to split and 3 white tigers pounced towards Night Rain Tower. But Night Rain Tower directly kicked the sword beside him. The sword flew out of its sheath and flew in front of Night Rain Tower. Night Rain Tower split the sword chi into 7 shadows and flew out, piercing the white tiger sword chi. A sword that can turn illusions into reality, 4-elephant sword. Night Rain Tower pierced through the white tiger sword chi with a single move and chuckled as he said, "Impressive indeed. 7-star sword chi." Li Fan was also shocked. "How do you know Senior Rainbow's move?" "My master is your escort, right?" Night Rain Tower bowed to Li Fan. "My master is already old, please take care of him, Chief Escort." "Damn, something's not right." Li Fan frowned. "Senior Rainbow said that he doesn't have a disciple and wanted to take me as his disciple." "Indeed. Although I learned a few sword techniques from my master, it's a pity that I haven't officially become his disciple." Night Rain Tower explained, "After all, my ambition is not in the sword Dao, but here. Kunlun Snow Mountain. Seeing that we have a bit of history, how about letting us go?" Li Fan wanted to play the favor card. "Sorry, in my heart, my master is indeed important. But the Alliance Chief is supreme." Night Rain Tower said as he separated his hands and once again created 7 sword shadows, floating around him. "I won't let you get away with it." Lu Zhu leaned beside Li Fan, looked at the 7 incoming sword chi and released Black Tortoise sword chi. Black Tortoise's body enveloped the 2 of them. The 7 sword chi bounced on it and were all blocked. But Lu Zhu's Black Tortoise sword chi was still very weak and could not block for long. "Head Escort Li, stay." Night Rain Tower used his 7 sword shadows. He seemed to have gone easy on Lu Zhu. But Lu Zhu's strength was indeed not enough. The Black Tortoise sword chi was already on the verge of shattering. At this critical moment, Song Fuya's voice suddenly came from the side. "Ha ha ha, you are all dead." Night Rain Tower immediately turned around, the 7 sword shadows chased after the voice. Lu Zhu immediately carried Li Fan on his back and jumped 7 to 8 meters away, quickly jumping down from the high wall. Bang! Night Rain Tower's 7 sword chi tore a large piece of the wall. A phone was thrown there, cut into 3 pieces. Ah! Night Rain Tower let out a bitter laugh. He was actually tricked by Lu Zhu. "Alliance Chief Luo, I'm sorry, I tried my best." Looking at Lu Zhu who already disappeared in the snow, Night Rain Tower sighed. However, he still shouted, "Li Fan escaped, chase after him immediately." Chapter 646. The tall door of the sword-leaning high wall slowly opened. Over 100 experts on warhorses rushed out and began to search the Kunlun Mountain in a blanket manner. Pa! In the meeting hall, Jin Jiuma smashed a cup. "This Li Fan is so shameless. He actually ran away." "Mao Mao, don't talk so much." Night Rain Tower reprimanded, but received a glare from Jin Jiuma. Luo Shuowu sat on the throne without saying a word. Her face was as cold as ice. No one knew what she was thinking. "I'll go and catch him." Zhang Xiaotian couldn't hold it in anymore. Li Fan was a rare man that he liked. He was quite suitable for Alliance Master Luo. In the end, this kid actually ran away. How preposterous. Zhang Xiaotian was a man of action. He immediately left. "Alliance Master Luo, please tell me." Night Rain Tower cupped his hands towards Luo Shuewu and asked respectfully. "The monk can run away, but the temple can't." Luo Shuewu said indifferently, "Call Xiaotian back." "Rain Tower, you'll have to handle this matter. We'll set off tomorrow to Fifan Escort Agency to give the betrothal gift and marry the groom." "Okay." Night Rain Tower agreed and ordered people to prepare the betrothal gift. Sister, Jin Kyumo, who had been calling Luo Shuewu sister, was a little hesitant. She couldn't help but ask, "Although Li Fan is a little annoying, no matter what, he's the fiancé of Murong Ying, the alliance master of Wulin. Is it really okay for us to fight over him like this? You said it yourself, he's the fiancé. Luo Shuewu's eyes flashed. Since he's the fiancé, then we can naturally fight. Okay. Jean Jioma didn't say anything, but she understood that Luo Shuewu was fighting with Murong Ying. Luo Shuewu and Murong Ying had known each other since they were very young, and they had always been best friends. Luo Shuewu was Murong Ying's cousin and the daughter of Murong Ying's second aunt. At that time, Luo Shuewu lived in Murong Villa and grew up in Murong Villa. However, later on, the two of them parted ways and took different paths. Murong Ying became the Wulin Alliance Master, and Luo Shuewu became the Sword Alliance Master. Two Alliance Masters. But obviously, the unrivaled Martial Alliance Master had more weight. The reason why Luo Shuewu left that oath was more or less to spite Murong Ying. At the same time, Li Fan was hiding in a rundown temple, sitting face to face with Lu Zhu. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? The wind and snow outside were very strong, and the temple door was flapping noisily. Li Fan looked at the calm Lu Zhu in front of him and suddenly asked. How could that be? You have no reason to kill me. Lu Zhu winked at Li Fan. So, I'm not afraid. I don't like smart people. Li Fan sat there as if he was talking to himself. Here. In the temple, Lu Zhu boiled a cup of hot milk and handed it to Li Fan. You don't have true qi right now. Drink some milk to warm yourself up. Li Fan didn't say anything, but he took the milk and slowly drank a mouthful. It was indeed very cold here. In the snowy Kunlun mountain, Li Fan was wearing thin clothes. Without the protection of true qi, Li Fan was indeed very cold. It was just that he was too shy to say it. He didn't expect Lu Zhu to be so careful. She thought of it and didn't say anything to mock him. Aren't you afraid that I will poison you? Lu Zhu suddenly asked. No. Why? I'm already like this. So what if you poison me? Li Fan smiled as if he was laughing at himself. Moreover, if you wanted to kill me, you could have done it before. Why did you bring me out? Well, it seems that you are not a fool. Lu Zhu said, this mountain god temple has been abandoned for a long time and is very remote. Even the people of Sword Alliance won't be able to find this place in a short time. Especially now that the snow has sealed the mountain, I'm afraid they will give up on searching everywhere. As he spoke, he even walked to the window and used tape to seal the swaying window. We will rest here for the night. It should be very safe. Li Fan leaned closer to the small fire that had been lit. But at this time, Lu Zhu suddenly pricked up her ears. She helped Li Fan up and jumped to the back of the dilapidated statue. Someone is coming. Li Fan was a smart person and immediately understood. Yes. Lu Zhu nodded and placed Li Fan here. But on second thought, she picked Li Fan up and used Qinggong to jump to the plaque and put Li Fan behind the plaque. There was dust everywhere, cobwebs were everywhere, and the temperature was terrible. Fortunately, it was winter and the mosquitoes were frozen to death. Otherwise, Li Fan would really cry. After settling him down, Lu Zhu jumped back to the ground and continued to lean on the fire, pretending that nothing happened. The door of this broken temple was suddenly kicked open. The wind and snow rushed in and extinguished the fire. Song Fuya, along with two devil cult disciples, directly rushed in and glanced at Lu Zhu who was sitting on the ground. The other two devil cult disciples immediately walked to the back of the statue and looked at it. Fortunately, they did not notice the plaque above their heads. Protector Song, did you come in such a hurry just to disturb my mood of warming myself? Warming yourself? Do you need a fire? Song Fuya heard what Lu Zhu said and sneered, you are a martial artist and have true qi to protect your body. Why do you need a fire to warm yourself? I'm afraid this fire is for someone else, right? I can always boil some milk to drink. Lu Zhu kicked the milk bottle next to her, it's such a cold day, why don't you drink some milk to warm your body? don't give me that. Song Fuya coldly looked at Lu Zhu. Don't think that I don't know that Li Fan drank the Night Rain Building's muscle-softening powder and then was stolen by you. Where did you hide him? Say it. This place is only so big, you can find it yourself. Lu Zhu casually said, Protector Song, if you want to blame someone, you can always find a pretext. I think, you have long been unhappy with me and took out these things to ruin my reputation. But it doesn't matter, justice is in people's hearts. There will be people who will give me justice. Humph, I think you have the heart to betray the cult, right? I swear to heaven and earth. Lu Zhu shrugged his shoulder, if not for me, how could you get the 9 Buddha Sutra? Song Fuya, I helped you clean up your mess, but you slander me. People like you are really ungrateful. Song Fuya frowned deeply. Although she knew that Lu Zhu was difficult to deal with, she did not expect him to be so sharp-tongued, making people unable to refute. You think I can't find him? Song Fuya saw the plaque above her head. She suddenly jumped up and landed on top of the plaque. But there was nothing behind the plaque. There was not a single person. Strange. Song Fuya carefully checked again and found that there was indeed no one. Chapter 647. I will definitely find him. Song Fuya waved her hand, go search nearby, he must be nearby. Yes. The 2 subordinates and Song Fuya left the ruined temple and went outside to search. Lu Zhu immediately jumped up and landed on the signboard, discovering that Li Fan was indeed not here. I am here. Li Fan jumped out from behind a broken piece of wood and lightly landed in front of Lu Zhu. Ah. Lu Zhu was a little surprised, you recovered your strength? Recovered a little. As Li Fan spoke, a red-tailed scorpion secretly hid in his collar. Fire-tailed scorpion, this is one of the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures Gu in Li Fan's body. Li Fan relied on this scorpion to slowly undo the muscle-softening powder in his body. Although it was not completely undone, at least it was undone a little. You really make people surprised. Lu Zhu looked at Li Fan in disbelief, you have made me look at you in a new light. There are still many things that will make you surprised. Li Fan said, I see that your nature is not bad. Why don't you follow me, join my fiefin escort agency and don't follow the demonic sect? This. I am afraid it is not possible. Lu Zhu smiled bitterly, I am forced to join solipsism. How can there be so many forced? Martial artists should go against heaven's will. If that is the case, then it would be good. Lu Zhu shook her head, however, you do not understand my matters. If you don't tell me, how would I understand? In short, you just do not understand. Lu Zhu started to argue, but Li Fan suddenly became excited and pulled Lu Zhu, how about this, the 2 of us, since we are in this temple today, let the mountain god be our witness, let us become sworn brothers. Ah. Lu Zhu was startled, what the hell is Li Fan doing? Then it is decided. Li Fan was also a person who did whatever he wanted. He grabbed Lu Zhu and knelt in front of the mountain god statue. With the mountain god as my witness, I, Li Fan, and Lu Zhu, hereby swear to be sworn brothers. As he spoke, Li Fan pulled out his hero's sword and cut his finger. No wine, isn't there milk here? Li Fan pulled over the milk jug and dripped a drop of blood into it. Holy shit, Lu Zhu really wanted to complain. What the hell? Can this thing replace wine? But Li Fan was in high spirits, so Lu Zhu couldn't refuse. After the 2 of them finished the blood-stained milk, it was considered as having drunk the kowtow wine. The 2 of them kowtowed to the ground. They were really using the mountain god as a witness and the heaven and earth as a witness. Alright, we're brothers from now on. How old are you? Li Fan asked Lu Zhu. Lu Zhu rolled her eyes, thinking to herself, you don't even know how old I am, yet you still have the nerve to swear brotherhood with me. I'm 18 this year. Lu Zhu said her age. Li Fan muttered, yo, younger than me. Then from now on, I'll be your big brother and you'll be my little brother. Humph, feeling that she was taken advantage of, Lu Zhu was a bit unhappy. How about you be the big brother? I'll be your little brother then. Lu Zhu still accepted it. Good, good, good. Li Fan seemed a bit happy. Since you're my little brother, don't cheat me in the future. In your heart, am I the kind of person who cheats you? You are. Li Fan really wanted to complain, but he held back. After all, there were too many points to complain about. You keep the four-elephant sword. Li Fan glanced at the four-elephant sword. It's not a bad idea to leave it for Lu Zhu to protect herself. In the future, if we meet on the battlefield, will we also call each other brothers? Lu Zhu also knew that Li Fan was just acting on a whim. He recognized her as his brother, but she was, after all, a member of the Devil's Sect. How could they have that kind of brotherly friendship? I treat you as my brother. Li Fan patted Lu Zhu's shoulder. I also hope that every time you do something bad, you can think of me. I hope you can be more strict with yourself and have a limit in your heart. So, you recognize me as your brother just to limit me? It's to save you. Li Fan said frankly, I don't want you to go further and further away. You really don't understand anything. Lu Zhu sighed, you and I should call it a day, I should also go. If you follow me, you'll only bring endless trouble. Now that everyone knows that I'm with you, there will be a lot of people chasing you. Li Fan couldn't help but ask. Isn't that what a little brother should do? Lu Zhu winked at Li Fan, then pushed the door open. Carrying the four-elephant sword on her back, she walked out against the wind and snow. Li Fan looked at Lu Zhu. In his heart, he really didn't know what to say. In his heart, did he really think of himself as a big brother? Right now, Li Fan also needed to recuperate. He suddenly leaped up and landed on the signboard. Sitting cross-legged, he clasped his hands together and circulated the innate qi in his body. The fire-tailed scorpion also moved around Li Fan's body and began to detoxify him. With the two-pronged approach, Li Fan began to quickly recover his strength. The people of the Sword Reliance sect were looking for him, and the Devil sect was also looking for him. Quickly recovering his strength was the most important thing. When Li Fan was cultivating, Lu Zhu also walked out against the wind and snow. On the Kunlun mountain, the people of the Sword Reliance sect did not know why, but they no longer searched for Li Fan. However, the people of the Devil's sect continued to wander around the Kunlun mountain, searching for traces of Li Fan in a carpet fashion. Not long after Lu Zhu walked out, Song Fuya appeared in front of him and blocked his path. Where is Li Fan? Song Fuya asked again. How would I know? Lu Zhu began to play dumb. Where is Li Fan? Isn't that the clue that Protector Song is looking for? Of course. That is why I am asking you now. Song Fuya was not a fool. She stared at Lu Zhu. You should know the price of betraying solipsism, right? When did I betray solipsism? Lu Zhu did not admit it. Protector Song, are you targeting me? Don't give me that. Song Fuya firmly believed in her judgment. Where did you hide him? Tell me honestly and you still have a chance. Protector Song, you need evidence to speak. Lu Zhu said, look, I am right here. Do you want to search me? Don't think that with the sect leader doting on you, you can do whatever you want. I am conscientious and conscientious for solipsism. The sect leader is just understanding my work. Lu Zhu said calmly, I am not like a certain someone who does not appreciate the kindness of others when they clean up after her. Are you talking about me? A trace of killing intent flashed in Song Fuya's eyes. Who am I talking about? Who knows? If you have nothing to do, can you not block the way? I am still waiting to go back and take a hot bath. Lu Zhu was expressionless. I have already sent people to surround the mountain god temple. Chapter 648. Song Fuya's words shocked Lu Zhu. I've searched the surroundings, but there's no trace of Li Fan. So, I guess, he should still be in the mountain god temple. Song Fuya looked at Lu Zhu and chuckled, do you think you're very smart? You want to use yourself as bait to attract everyone's attention, then let Li Fan hide in the mountain god temple and leave when it's safe. Although I can't find him, I know he's in the mountain god temple. I can send people to burn that broken temple. Lu Zhu's brows slightly wrinkled, but it's only for a moment, then she relaxed. Up to you. Lu Zhu turned and left, as if she didn't care at all. Seeing Lu Zhu leave so casually, Song Fuya couldn't help but mutter in her heart. Could it be that he really wasn't with Li Fan? Protector, should we burn it? A devil cult disciple stepped forward and asked. Burn. Song Fuya waved her hand, a group of devil cult disciples surrounded the broken temple, and at the same time, drew their bows and arrows. At the same time, these people wrapped the arrowheads in linen, dipped it in alcohol, lit it with a torch, and then began to shoot arrows at the broken temple. One by one, the fire arrows landed on the broken temple, setting it on fire. Even though there was wind and snow, the devil cult's fire seemed to have been added with something, it burned more and more vigorously, and finally, it burned fiercely, engulfing the entire broken temple. Lu Zhu had already walked far away. She suddenly turned her head, looking at the burning red broken temple, her heart slightly tightened. Li Fan. I've already done what I should do, the rest is up to you. The fire burned for a long time, and finally, the broken temple collapsed, turning into a pile of black charcoal. The remaining heat was still rising, intertwining with the red sparks, giving off steam. Song Fuya crossed her arms, stood there, looked for a long time, and finally said. Seems like he really isn't here. Even if he is, he should have been burned to death by our devil cult's holy fire. Protector, what should we do next? Let's go back to the main hall first, and wait for the next order from the sect leader. Yes. Song Fuya left with a group of people. Not long after they left, the pile of charcoal suddenly loosened. Then, it was knocked away, and a hand wrapped in golden armor reached out. Then, a man wearing golden armor appeared. Pa, so dirty. Li Fan spat out 2 mouthfuls of dirty water, then patted the dust off his body and stood up. The golden armor on his body was disintegrating bit by bit. How can you not bring me along to the main hall? Li Fan looked at the devil cult's main force that was leaving and followed them silently. Although Li Fan's strength had not fully recovered, his qigong was still pretty good. Treading on the snow without leaving a trace, Li Fan chased after the devil cult's troops, following their footsteps. These people had been marching rapidly. Not long after, they descended the Kunlun Mountains. Then, they divided into several groups and pretended to be employees of a certain company. They boarded different buses and drove separately. However, that was not a problem for Li Fan. He watched as Song Fuya boarded the bus and followed it, easily hiding under it. The place was indeed a little depressing, but in order to find the main hall of the devil cult, Li Fan could still bear it. Although there would be a terrifying enemy in the main hall, Li Fan somehow felt a little excited. It was every martial fighter's wish to be able to fight with an expert. Li Fan was a man with such pursuits. He followed the bus for 3 days and 3 nights. For the past 3 days and 3 nights, Li Fan did not drink or eat anything. Although eating was equivalent to replenishing energy for ordinary martial fighters, it was very important. However, for Li Fan, he could tolerate his hunger and only absorb energy from the surrounding air to temporarily replenish his nutritional needs. However, it was only temporary, and Li Fan's limit was 5 days. After 5 days, Li Fan would have to eat and drink, or his body would collapse. The energy consumption of martial fighters was far greater than that of ordinary people. That was the law of conservation of energy, which was the law of nature. 3 days later, Li Fan followed the bus and arrived in an urban area. After 3 days of driving on the highway, they had no idea which city they had arrived at. The city was rather prosperous and it was obviously not a small town. Hurry up and go in, don't dawdle. Song Fuya's voice sounded in his ears, which then slowly faded away. Li Fan gently descended from the bottom of the bus and glanced out. A disciple of the devil cult was sitting there with a cigarette in his mouth, smoking it happily. Li Fan stretched out his hands, grabbed his legs, and pulled him under the bus. He then covered his mouth and broke his neck. Crack! The devil sect disciple's neck was directly broken by Li Fan, and he died with his head turned. Li Fan did not have to be polite to the people of the devil cult. If they were to stay in this world, they would be a scourge. After getting rid of this person, Li Fan immediately took off his clothes and changed into his own body. There were so many disciples of the devil cult, and they were a motley crew. Li Fan wanted to try and see if he could mix in with them. After changing into the clothes of the devil cult, Li Fan climbed out completely. He used alien bone changing to change his appearance slightly, and then walked towards a building in front of him. Li Fan saw it clearly just now, those people all walked into the building. This was called the Twin Towers, and he did not know which nouveau riche built it. For the devil cult to set up their base in such a place, it was really awesome. What was this called? A small hermit in the forest, a big hermit in the city. Li Fan could not help but ponder for a moment. It seemed that because of the clothes on Li Fan's body, he was able to enter the building without any obstructions. Furthermore, there was a huge signboard at the entrance, which wrote, "Celebrating Solipsism's 3rd Summit." What the hell? Solipsism is holding a summit? Isn't this organization supposed to be very mysterious? Why are they holding a summit in this place? What are you doing? Still not going in. A man who looks like a cadre berates Li Fan, "What are you doing here?" Li Fan calmly nodded his head at this cadre, then followed his finger and walked towards a huge venue at the back. He wanted to see what this so-called summit was all about. When Li Fan arrived at the venue, he was shocked the moment he pushed open the door. The venue was densely packed with people from the devil cult, and there were at least 3,000 to 4,000 of them. That dense mass of people caused fear to rise in people's heart. The devil cult is indeed powerful in numbers. However, these people's skills were uneven. Li Fan could feel that there were experts and rookies. Quickly sit down. The sect leader is going to hold a summit for us. A devil cult disciple berated Li Fan. Li Fan did not utter a word as he quietly sat in the corner. Chapter 649. What kind of person is Li Wei, the cult leader? Li Fan was very curious and eager to meet him. It was said that he was extremely powerful and even slightly stronger than Murong. It would be great if he could meet him today. There were so many cult disciples around him, and all of them had a burning gaze in their eyes. It was as if Li Wei was not only their cult leader, but also their god. Fervent faith. Li Fan saw all sorts of terrifying existences in their eyes. Soon, the fanaticism in these people's eyes blazed even more. Li Fan looked up and saw a man in a scarlet robe slowly walking onto the stage. The man was wearing a black mask that covered his face, and his robe was printed with the words Supreme. There was also a mighty golden dragon below the words, which symbolized his identity. I'm the Supreme. I'm the Supreme. I'm the Supreme. All of a sudden, everyone yelled, and their voices were like waves that were getting louder and louder. Li Fan fixed his gaze on the man, who was so mysterious that Li Fan could not figure out his background. Li Fan subconsciously wanted to stand up, but a hooded man beside him suddenly reached out and pressed Li Fan's arm. Li Fan frowned and turned around, only to see that the man's exquisite face was revealed from under the hood. He then gestured for Li Fan to keep quiet. Jiang Feng. Li Fan was shocked and thought, how can it be him? Besides, how did he recognize me? Why are you here? Li Fan asked Jiang Feng through voice transmission. My purpose is the same as yours. How did you recognize me? Even though you've changed your appearance, your aura remains the same. You're a complete newbie, Jiang Feng said sarcastically. I want to kill you and Li Wei together. Li Fan said calmly. What a coincidence, I also want to kill you and Li Wei together. Jiang Feng's voice was cold and emotionless. However, Li Fan knew that this person's indifference was just a facade. In the depths of his heart, he seemed to be suppressing some terrible emotions. But now is not the time, Jiang Feng said, when the time comes, none of you will survive. You have too many things to consider. You're the one with too little stuff in your head. The two of them were engrossed in transmitting their voices, mocking each other one after another. While they were arguing, Li Wei stood on the podium and brainwashed the people below him as if he was giving a lecture. Those useless people, they've been stepping on our heads for too long. Li Wei raised his hands and said loudly, it's time to change this era. The people below shouted together. They believed in Li Wei fervently, and a few simple words from Li Wei could ignite their emotions. Now you can see for yourselves how weak those hypocritical righteous paths are. Li Wei said and clapped his hands, after which two disciples of the cult immediately pushed a cart up. There was a woman tied to the cart who seemed to be from a certain sect. The woman looked delicate and seemed to be young. Her black eyes were filled with fear, anger, and despair. As soon as she appeared, the people below immediately let out a chaotic hissing sound. Look, everyone, this woman is from the Amei sect. By the way, her name is Ling Yu. Li Wei picked up a scalpel from the podium and continued, her nickname is Flawless Moon. Oh, look, she's really flawless, if you don't count her hypocrisy. This woman joined the Whistling West Wind sect after leaving Amei sect. She has killed countless followers of the solipsism sect. Many people are afraid of her and fear her. But today, she's right in front of us. I'm going to prove to you that she's just a mortal. She will also feel fear, bleed, and die. Li Wei then waved his hand, and someone came forward to remove the tape that was covering Ling Yu's mouth. Demon! You all deserve to die. Ling Yu yelled at them. Oh, maybe. Li Wei looked at Ling Yu and smiled. In your eyes, we are demons. But in our eyes, you guys are the same. He slowly walked towards Ling Yu and spun the scalpel in his hand. Don't worry, I will slowly cut off your flesh and let you die in pain. Seeing that Li Wei was slowly walking towards her, Ling Yu couldn't help but feel even more terrified. Her legs were trembling, and she had the urge to pee. Although Ling Yu had always been very brave during battles, she still couldn't help but be afraid when death approached her. The unknown was the greatest fear. For humans, death was the greatest unknown. No one knew whether death was the end or a new journey. At this moment, Ling Yu was about to face her impending death. Congratulations, because you can die in my hands. Li Wei said while raising his scalpel. Li Fan couldn't sit still anymore. He wanted to attack, but Jiang Feng pressed down on his shoulder. Jiang Feng's skills seemed to have increased greatly, and Li Fan actually couldn't break free. What are you doing? It's not time yet. She's about to die. It's just a few cuts, she won't die so quickly. Jiang Feng had been expressionless, but Li Fan was already on the verge of losing his temper. At this moment, three figures suddenly jumped out of the crowd below. The three of them took off their black and red coats and revealed their white robes, each of which was printed with the emblem of riding a horse in the west wind. Hall Master Ling, we're here to save you. Li Wei, die. Yes. The three of them pulled out their swords in unison, and judging from their posture, they seemed to be disciples of the Huashan sect. Ling Yu's eyes were filled with excitement when she saw them. It's you guys. The three of them were known as the three heroes of Huashan, and they were the three most powerful experts of Huashan back then. However, they later left Huashan and joined Long Fangyu. The three-talent array that the three of them performed was extremely powerful, and it greatly increased the power of their swordsmanship. The three of them surrounded Li Wei, who seemed to be a little panicked and took a step back before falling to the ground, causing his mask to fall off. Under the mask was an ordinary face that was filled with shock. Li Fan realized that this guy was just a substitute for Li Wei. Do you understand now, idiot? Jiang Feng mocked Li Fan again, but Li Fan didn't want to say anything. It seemed that his experience was indeed a little shallow. The three heroes of Huashan surrounded the fake leader of solipsism, and they also discovered his identity. He's just a substitute. Save the hall master first. Yes. The three of them turned around and walked towards Lingyu. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.